I will open our school committee meeting for June 22nd. If we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we will start with introduction to members.
Ted Novio, Millville.
Carrie Goddard, Blackstone.
Oh, Matthew Catalano, Millville.
Chuck Dunton, Blackstone.
Tara Scobie, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Erin Vanaco, Millville.
Denise Carrier, Director of Finance Operations.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
Thank you so much. And first, just a little bit of business. We have a nice crowd here tonight. Consent agenda A, looking for a motion for warrants, minutes of meeting for May 27th and June 8th, which I don't think we have any minutes for.
So moved.
So May 27th, right? Motion made by Ted. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chuck. All those in favor of consent agenda A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, thank you. And we have public forum. Anyone that isn't on the agenda for a specific reason that wanted to address us, we're here for you. I think you're all here for us. And moving on to school committee items. First item on our agenda is the 22-23 school year BMR retirees. I think we only have one here, and if you'd like to join us at the table, you can introduce yourself. And each year we always recognize our retirees. We ask them to pick a book. So if you want to have a seat, tell us your journey and the book you picked. That would be.
Can I give it to?
Yes.
That'd be great.
My journey was actually quite a long time.
So let's start with.
I'm nervous.
Sorry, you did not have to be nervous in front of us after all these years. Your name and the building you are leaving would be.
My name is Holly Gilbo, and I am leaving out of the complex,
But have been with us
but have been
so many years.
Yeah, preschool to 8th grade. So
Eighth grade.
I had my rounds. I enjoyed immensely working for the school district. I was there every day for the kids, so I'm going to miss
You
the
really were. Yeah. How many years total, Holly?
24.
24 years. That's amazing.
But that was it for me.
Yeah.
I need to move on now. But like I said, I'll miss the kids.
They will miss you too.
Thank you.
Why don't you share with us the book that you chose? We ask the retirees to choose a favorite book of theirs, and then we purchase it for the library of the building that they last worked in. So, or if you have a building of choice.
I picked A Drop of Hope, and I hope the kids will read it and realize that little acts of kindness towards others can make a big difference in their own life as well as others, whether it be adult or other student or classmate. I always tried to instill that in the kids that I had and showed them that this one act can make a difference. If you need help, ask. That can make a difference. From another student or another adult in the school or home. So this book hit home for me, so I just thought it would be a good book to leave
If you
behind.
need help, ask. It sounds so simple, but people are afraid to do it.
Yes,
So,
especially any kid in school, any age I've seen, they're still afraid to ask for
Yeah.
help. So I
very
hope this
good
will help.
message. And what school will we be putting that book in?
I'd like to see it left at the complex for the 5th graders.
Okay.
That's where I left off. So that's where I'd like to leave myself behind.
You can do that.
Perfect.
Great.
All right. Anything else you want to share about your 24 years with us? What are you doing for retirement plans? You have to be celebrating.
Yeah, I'm celebrating. I still listen for the bus every morning, though, and, wonder what they're doing during the day. I'm still not out of that mode yet. But just taking it easy, enjoying retirement for myself.
Good.
I need it.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
Can you give us some flowers? Yeah.
Thank you
And
so
I think you have
much.
some special people here with you. You want to get a photo with your family? Sure. I'd love to. You want to come up and just see how much you want to. No? And get the book in there too? I got a folder for her. Christine, I can still see her. I know.
Trying not to be in the picture.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hello.
If you can share with us your name and your journey.
I'm Sharon Cusick. I retired in the end of this month, 2023, with 23 years in the district.
3 years.
I worked at the high school for 14 years and went to the middle school for 1 year and stayed for 9. It was a very big adjustment. It was very different going from the high school to the middle school because I was used to working with high school kids where you can be pretty clear with them, and the sixth graders, it's just a whole different world, and it was really a lot of fun. I've worked mostly in the sixth grade at the middle school, and they are still very sweet. And they want to tell you about their meme and their Pepe and their puppy and their kitten and their little brother, and it's just a really very fun work environment in the middle school. So that's my history with the district.
So I would ask what your favorite was, but I think we just heard that it was sixth grade. Your favorite building?
Yes,
or-
I really loved at the high school. We started out with the ninth graders when they came in, and we stayed with them when I was working there through the 12th grade. You knew them, they knew you. You worked with them to teach them how to be independent, and you watched them grow into independence. So it was very different, but I enjoyed both.
And what book did you choose for us?
The Elephant in the Room.
So
We have
it's
that
not in
order,
yet.
right.
Yeah, it's not in yet.
I read it very recently in a literacy class. A wonderful book. It's fun, but it has a lot of current topics. I just found it to be just a wonderful book, and I passed it on to one of the sixth graders. One of the teachers that left is leaving teaching, so she had books, and I just was like, here, take this home and finish it. And she was all excited because she had started to read it as well. It's just a lovely book. It's about a family. There's a family, there's immigrants, there's a little boy on the spectrum, there's an elephant, there's flamingos. The elephant actually goes in the room, so that's the title of the book, so it's a wonderful book.
And we'll be leaving that here for anyone to enjoy in our middle school. We'll place that book in this library.
Yes,
In your
yes,
memory.
Yes, I spoke with Mrs. Tasker. She said, I'll encourage the kids to read it. And that's like, good,
Yeah.
because it's a wonderful book.
Well, 23 years is it's a long time. Just like Holly, 24, 23. And what are your plans for retirement?
My first plans are in September, late September, early October. I'm going to northern Maine, where I'm originally from. They have the most spectacular fall. It's just magnificent. And I have a sister who has an October birthday. Obviously, I haven't celebrated that in person with her for a lot of years, so I'm going to be there to celebrate her birthday with her. I plan to just clean and organize and take care of things that I've left for when I retire. So now I have to do them.
Well, give yourself some time.
Oh, I most certainly am going to.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, and we have some flowers for you too.
Standing. Well done.
we did have a few other retirees that were invited, but they may have already started their retirement. Lucky them. But of course, all the years put in on these lifelong employees, it's, you're irreplaceable, but you deserve the best in your retirement. So we appreciate you taking a few minutes to spend with us at this meeting each year too. So thank you again. Next up, we have student requests for outdoor classrooms. We've been waiting for you to come back. So if you want to join us at the table. We're excited to see what you have for us. Diagrams. If you want to introduce yourselves and just give us a little refresher. I know you were with us a few meetings ago, but refresh our memories on the project you were working on and what your request was and what we asked of you and where we stand.
I'm Madison Healy.
I'm Rowan Mahan, and we're with the Period C, Miss Conti's history class, and at the end of U.S. History 1, every high school U.S. History 1 class is required to do a civics project, and our civics project was addressing the problem of outdoor seating in our school. Because a lot of kids we want to work outside, right? And we know that's like a common problem, and if we can get more seating out there, teachers are more likely to bring us outside because they know that we're going to be sitting down and we're going to be able to like comprehend better because we're sitting and there's places where they can teach us and stand and stuff like that.
There's also a lot of crowding right now with kids outside. Like in the courtyard, there's probably like 5 tables. So when teachers want to go out, a lot of times we end up like sitting on the ground, which is not really comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You want to show?
Oh yeah.
So we asked, when you presented your project to us, we asked you to come back with a plan, right, Chuck? I think you were the one that said, show us what you need or, and how it will be used. And did we ask them to go out and get donations? I don't remember. They drew you a map. They drew us a map, okay.
We'll do this one first.
Okay.
Show the.
Wait, this one?
Yeah. So this is like a diagram of the high school right now. And as you can see, there's a lot of empty places to put things like picnic tables or benches.
So then in the
Is this
front,
the courtyard?
no, the courtyard's this one. So
This is the overhead.
So this is the
Front?
the front where where the flagpole is in front of like the whole front of the school.
Okay.
And then this is in the back end of the school. There's like this open field between the janitor shed and the track shed, and there's a lot of space here between the parking lot and the woods where we can put extra seating there so that everyone doesn't have to crowd in the courtyard. So, because like, yeah, there's a lot of space for seating in the courtyard. There's also a lot of spaces outside of the courtyard that you can put more seating and more people can be more spread out. And then
This is the one for the courtyard. What way should we put it?
just hold it like this. Here, hold that. The library, so the courtyard, this is like an overhead shot. The library's here, A wing's here,
Okay.
C wing is here, and the lunchroom is down here. Everything in black is what's already there. So as you can see, there's still a lot of possibility around the courtyard of what we can put. See, this is all the stuff we put in red is like possible things. So these represent picnic tables, right? More picnic tables. These little rectangles, these are benches. And then these could just be like individual seating that we could put in these spots. Cause like we can fill up the whole courtyard and get like, probably like way more classes out there and everyone could be sitting down comfortably.
And then we have an Amazon wish list of things we could ask for. And then a place of stores that we're asking permission to send our letter to.
You
So
have-
all of this equipment will be movable, nothing is would be installed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could we pass that around just so we see the wish list?
Do you want the stores too?
Yeah, and actually the
That one.
overhead too.
So this, all these things that you're getting are gonna have a lifespan.
Yeah.
It's not like it's gonna be forever, it's gonna outdoor furniture last, right?
And then we also have our letter that we showed last time that would want to show it to stores if anyone wants to see it again.
Right.
Could you pass that around?
Yeah. And that's requesting donations.
Too much. Nice.
It's a lot of seats.
Yeah.
It could be a challenge for cutting the grass.
Yeah.
And you show a lot on the plan. Have you-
We don't like
Did
need,
you have a plan A?
well, we don't need
so-
all those seating. Those are like all possible where we could put things.
So
Okay.
that's not, so like all the stuff in the red, I misspoke. That's not what we want. That's just showing you all the possible places where we could put things. Those aren't like indefinite things that we like need. So like, it's not like a plan where we're like, okay, we need this X amount of chairs, X amount of tables, and X amount of benches. We're seeing what we can put in that area, and then what we get, we'll put according to how much we get of each thing.
Good job.
I like the umbrella.
Some of these look a little more cozy than others.
Yeah.
The cushion versus the foldable chair. That's great.
So have you thought about fundraising?
Fundraising? Something we discussed.
So, sometimes when, say, hospitals are built, people will donate some money and, you know, they have to put a little plaque on it. If you know, a family might want to donate a nice bench with a plaque on the back.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know, you know, how much we can help contribute, but
Yeah.
the more you can do as a group, the more you'll get.
So the letter they wrote is asking
Oh.
for donations of items.
That's their initial contact list.
So I think they'd be looking for our approval to be able to start that process and maybe send that to
The list of stores we
the
have.
list of stores. What I would like to see is if we could start the process for them maybe, and maybe double the
Do some
picnic
matching.
tables that are outside in the courtyard. If we could double that right now and then see, you know, where they end up with, and I'm talking about the metal, the purple
Yeah.
and gold ones that we have painted,
Those all
just so we
white.
have some consistency out there. So according to your drawing, how many do we have? The black ones?
Currently, 6.
So could we look into another 6, maybe allocate? I don't know how much.
Oh
that
yeah,
costs,
no, we
so,
can look into that for sure.
Um,
Can see what the cost would be on that.
yeah. And if they're set up right, you're fitting, you know, more group clusters of students together. I do like the idea though of the new space, so I don't know if that's something that maybe you want to work with your principal with to start working on making that space more of a student area. Because when you're going outside and you have a space issue already in one courtyard, it would be nice to have that spot in the back set up. And maybe that could be, you know, what, depending on what kind of furniture you're able to collect donation-wise, that could be a spot that is a flexible space. So I think what we need to do is approve them to accept donations, to send their letter out. So I'd be looking for a motion for the students to be allowed to send their letter requesting donations out. We'll start with that one.
So moved.
So motion made by Chuck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara L. And this is going to allow you to solicit for donations as the BMR students. Any other discussion or ideas, recommendations for the students on donations? I would just say maybe start with some more local companies that
Okay.
might know the BMR name. But you know what I also say, go big or go home, so Amazon, whoever's willing to give, I know Walmart has like money they might actually
Yeah.
give, so look into all of that. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's unanimous. And then I would like a second motion, I don't know, could we say $10,000 for 6? So a motion allocating $10,000 for courtyard furniture. And we can allocate that now, and it will be paid for out of this year's
So
money.
Can I bring up a point?
Sure.
So they did mention storage of a lot of these things.
Right. So what's your point?
My point is, that,
They might need storage.
10,000 might go towards some type of shed.
Yeah.
However
I mean,
it
I
gets
would like to
spent.
see the money spent on doubling the picnic tables, the metal, heavy-duty,
Yeah.
long-lasting ones that are out there. And I
They
think
stay out.
I think they would
based
stay
on,
outside.
Yeah.
based on what they collect, maybe we'd look into that, but maybe there's somewhere in the school that we would be able to store. There might already be a spot
Other
for
things.
some of the items that I saw. They look like maybe if we could find
Like the
maybe a
cushions and
closet
things.
outside of the gym or.
Some we could store in classrooms too, and then when we decide to go outside, we could bring some of
Right.
it out.
But there might be somewhere close to that area in the back but there might be other things. I think this is gonna be a process
Yes.
that if you need, I would like to see you come back to us. There might be other things you need for that space once you're working with Ms. Fallis. Just to make it a little bit safer, we might need to look at fencing or something like that to make that area an actual space. See what you come up with. I know school's over and I know class is out and you've gotten your grade for the year, but, find a way to implement this into
Yeah.
next year's, make it something you're gonna get another grade for. Because this is gonna be a lot of work. You're going to, and you deserve to be, to have credit for that. So, but I appreciate the fact that you're here and that it's gotten to this point because it's something that will, be better for everyone in that building. And we'll have to find a way to put your name and class on it.
I would
Did
just
you
like
have a
to say
suggestion for my $10,000?
that For storage, there is a garage underneath the gymnasium that we could possibly clean out. There's a lot of
Okay.
obsolete stuff down there.
So we might have options based on what they collect. Perfect.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, so I was looking for a motion, and I mean, my motion should be to spend up to $10,000 to double our courtyard
Seating
furniture,
capacity.
seating capacity. Did you say you second that?
I said picnic tables.
Picnic
And yes, I
tables,
second.
oh. Right. So I think I'm making this motion. So the motion's
You
made
made it.
by me. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara L. Any other suggestions open to anything like that? Hmm? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So I think we just started a direction for two parts here. I hope that helps you.
Thank you.
And again, we
Thank you.
appreciate you being here in summer. It is summer. You've all earned this summertime, but I'm excited to see where this goes and what it looks like in the future. But
Thank
don't
you.
stop now. Did we give them all their stuff back?
I think it's just that.
Is there anything else we can do for you or help you with? No?
Nice work.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
job.
you. Thank you for seeing it through.
Civic duty in action.
Yeah, exactly what it's supposed to be, right? All right, next up on the agenda is check presentation for CP. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Give us your name and town.
I'm Tanya Polak. I live in Blackstone, and I'm the vice chair of the district Special Education Parents Advisory Council, which is a mouthful. So we just go by CPAC for short. Asking the committee to accept a donation of $702.51. I don't have an official check for that. A lot of it actually was in cash, and it's basically proceeds from the sales of the Blackstone Police Department's specific autism acceptance patch from this past April. So they were really generous last year and had gone through the same thing where they sold the patches for $10 and they donated the proceeds to the CPAC. And this year we had the opportunity to work with them to redesign the patch to get away from the puzzle piece imagery that's kind of obsolete and embrace more of a up-to-date design with the neurodiversity infinity symbol. So we helped and had input into that, and then the same thing where we sold them and they're donating the proceeds to us. So that was the result of that from April. I am happy to say that we actually had people as far out as Minnesota, I think was the furthest one, who actually purchased patches. So we had Minnesota, New Jersey, and then other parts of Massachusetts, which was interesting. So very excited about that. And again, just asking the committee to accept the donation on behalf of the CPAC into our account.
Perfect. I will say patch collecting is a big thing. So, I don't know if you've ever been to Disney, but in the fire station on Main Street, they have patches from all over the world in there on display, and it is a thing. Those might be more fire, but it is a thing. Like, how far away can you get your patch to go? So it's interesting to hear that Minnesota was.
Minnesota was a surprise, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that. Just from knowing the history of that. You must know too, Carrie. All right, so $702.51. So looking for a motion to accept the donation for the CPAC in the amount of $702.51.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Tara.
Oh, I didn't think I said
S.
that.
Second.
Sorry.
And
Second.
Neil second. And second by
Are you
Ted.
just going, or did
So
I-
any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? All right, thank you so much for that.
Can I add one thing, just because I won't be here for the rest of the meeting? No discussion, but just for the school building committee that's coming up later, just to consider the CPAC and having one of our members be a representative on that committee.
Anyone in particular that you wanted to volunteer for that?
That's going to be
We
a
are
CPAC conversation.
Doing it as, we're actually listing names tonight.
Oh, and Sarah Peters. She'll kill me later for that, but Sarah Peters. That's it. Thank you so much.
Good work.
Thank you.
Nice job.
All right, next up on the school committee items is a motion to move the $500,000 from RE&D to the capital stabilization fund that was approved by both our towns at town meetings. So we're essentially just moving this money from our E&D currently, our current balance, into an account that would allow us to put it aside for feasibility in the future. And I think this is really more of a, let's make sure we did all the steps to get it there. So looking for a motion to move the $500,000 from our current E&D to capital stabilization, and it does have to be a 2/3 anytime we're moving money from E&D. So just point that out. So motion made by Tara L. There's second by Carrie. Any questions on what this item is? Just making sure we all understand. This is something we actually worked on long ago. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Makes it much easier for 2/3 when it's unanimous. Thank you. And next up, we have Millville Elementary School water update. I'll start with this and let Jason finish. That I did attend the June 20th Millville Board of Selectmen meeting. It was Tuesday. back us up to our joint meeting, May 16th, we all are very familiar that Millville made a motion to allocate $15,000 to pay for the bulk water. They also made the motion of $25,000 to start a study on, which I would actually call like a feasibility study on what is the best next, steps for them to find a better corrective action plan for the water. So I've been attending their meetings just to make sure that everything is kind of staying in process, and they started their meeting, their agenda item on Tuesday with a motion to clarify the $15,000 that they're reimbursing us for water, up to $15,000. So it kind of did change what we thought the process was a little bit. And I did go up to their table to talk to them about, like, so you're saying you want us to pay the bill that you put money aside for. I believe the bill, the order came from Millville. We actually don't know who the bill is sent to yet.
We have no one's got the bill yet.
Nobody's gotten the bill yet.
No.
But they want us to pay it and get reimbursed by them. And I tried to clarify that with them at their meeting on why. Because it seems like it's just making, like, it's their water purchase, and we're going to have to put the money up to get the money back, which, I mean, we've done that for other stuff before. It just seems like an unnecessary step. So I let them know that I felt that way. But unfortunately, they voted at 3, 1 abstention, 1 no. So it passed on a vote of 3 for that to be the process. But the good news is they did submit their corrective action plan, and they are waiting for the approval from DEP to move over to the permanganate filter, which in the corrective action plan, did we all get it? Or just,
It's in your packet.
It's in our packet. And on page 8, it does say that would be a 4-week process. So they are waiting for the approval from Mass DEP on their corrective action plan. And I clarified with them before I left the meeting that this needs to be done before school opens, and they said yes. So
they're
that's where
gonna-
we stood
They're gonna solve the problem
with the
within
permanganate.
a matter of weeks. That's been ongoing for
No.
over a decade.
Well, they're not solving it. They're starting a new cleansing system. They're not solving it. The water has never been, and I think there's still a huge gap between us, and the town administrator in Millville doesn't feel that we need to purchase bulk water, and I'm sitting here saying, but we need water, and even the chair of the select board, she's like, they need water. And the problem, it's not like we're asking for higher class. We're not asking for Fiji water. We're asking for potable water, healthy water, and that building doesn't have that at this time. So that's, it's always been on the backs of Millville to provide that. And if you'd like to share a few other pieces after.
Sure. So a few things on that, just to help solidify this process and plan and make sure that everything's being done correctly to the best that we can. Obviously, this isn't our project to manage, but it directly impacts our kids and our staff, so we're going to be very involved, as we have been. Whether that's necessarily welcomed or not is not really our issue. We're going to make sure this gets done correctly. So a few things. As Erin mentioned, the Board of Selectmen in Millville made their motion Tuesday evening to reimburse the school district up to $15,000. At this point, we are going to need to keep this relationship with the bulk water provider, Henshaw. They've been great, by the way, to work with, super cooperative and flexible. So my recommendation would be that we do move forward, and once we get the invoice, we pay it. We were just at the $15,000, so we did not exceed that. However, I do think that we need a letter from our attorney very clearly stating that this is not precedent setting. That we understand this is the way the motion was made by the Board of Selectmen, but in no way, shape, or form is the water our operating expense, nor will it be. So I do think we have to go on record, because what I don't want to have happen is an exposure on the school committee end where the Board of Selectmen can say, see, you did pay this water bill, it is your responsibility. So while we need to keep in good graces with the vendor, because he did the work and he needs to be paid, I do think we have to send a very clear letter stating the position of the school committee to the town of Millville, and it needs to be sent to Mass DEP. And I will tell you why I'm stating the DEP aspect of this. Because when we were trying to order the bulk water, I attempted to make that order, and DEP blocked it. I can't order that water. It has to come from the town. That's their operating system. So they would not let the water go through until the town approved it. So
They had to
ordered it and approved it. Exactly. So the point of the matter is, very respectfully to Millville, and I do think we have to continue to work and partner with them for many, many reasons. It's good for kids. But at the end of the day, I do think we have to be very firm in our position on that. So that's one piece. We are also working with the water consultant, DEP, and the water operator on the timeline. If you look at the corrective action plan in your packet, you probably notice on page 8, it states that the project will be done in late summer. While we understand that, that's a very, kind of loose timeline, we are working with them on a very specific timeline so that we actually have a sense of when that is going to be done, because as it states in their corrective action plan, they have to fire the system back up and get it running and circulating. They also have to test the water. We have reached out to the operator to ensure that they understand our position on the types of testing that needs to be done. We're certainly not water experts. However, if you recall from the joint meeting, one of the sticking points between the consultant, the operator, and DEP was the beaver dam and the bacteria that would be in that water, and whether or not it would actually be able to seep through the ground into the well. We're not going to wait till somebody gets sick to say, oh yeah, there's a problem. So we've had discussions with the operator about the turnaround time necessary to test for that bacteria right away and in an ongoing way. And just so the school committee and the community is aware, it's a 5-day turnaround. So we want to ensure that that bacteria is tested for. We don't want any problems with that. Because if you recall, the issue to begin with the water is the essentially the disinfectant byproducts, which is a result from too much chlorine. The chlorine's killing the bacteria. We're going to switch out the chlorine for the permanganate, which is going to manage a lot of the other issues, but it's not going to address if there's a bacteria issue. So we're not going to sit and wait for something to happen. We want to make sure that that water is tested before we allow use of that, so that nobody has any health issues with that. So we're already in conversation with the operator about that, and we will also be in conversation with the town and with DEP about that as well, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And the only other piece to mention is the attorney from Millville did finally reach out to our attorney. It was about a day or two ago. So they are in conversations with each other, trying to kind of settle all this and calm the seas, so to speak, no pun intended, but to keep everybody on the same page. So, do know that the town of Millville requested that their attorney reach out to the school committee attorney. Their attorney did finally reach out. He hadn't as of Monday of this past week, but did, I believe it was on Wednesday.
It was after.
Was it Wednesday? Yeah. So that those initial conversations have happened. That's where we're at. Once we have a definitive timeline, we will share that with of course, with the school committee and with the community at large, so everybody's on the same page.
But I just think it's important they know that we're, when we left their first meeting, June 8th, I felt like, yeah, they were on the timeline, they're working together. The process seems a little slowed on the $25,000 and doing a study, because if we had made a motion like that, I would have expected Jason on the next day or two to start that process. Like the committee made this motion, they want a study done on X, Y, and Z. And from what I gathered on Tuesday night, that is still in a hamster wheel. And they're kind of like, well, do we want to spend money on something that we don't know if we can afford? But the study, what I left that meeting with on May 16th was Mary Jude basically told them, this money's going to be here. Tell us what you need. So they should be figuring out what they need to get that grant that's going to be readily available in the next month or two. So they should be first in line for that. And I really hope that they're still in that process, because that's going to be the long-term fix on a issue that's always been an issue for that building.
And on that note, if I could add one other piece, I did reach out to Mary Jude from Mass DEP. She wrote me back this morning, and I inquired about the grant and asked where that is in terms of, you know, the request for proposals. She said that they haven't released the information yet, but she is committed to seeing me on that email when she sends it to the town. So the school district will be right in the loop when that money becomes available.
And that's for tying into an existing town's water system.
Or something else,
It
whether
could be
they
a new
decide.
well. They just need to figure out what do they want to ask for.
Want to get out of the water business like she recommended.
Yeah.
And hook up to a
Right.
town. That's
They
really-
just need
Could
to
be.
figure that out.
Yeah, or it
They
could
need
be a
someone to
different
write that
system.
grant for
Just
them.
like risk. Are they prepared to pay for water, you know, Millville? What if we go through the school year?
I have a feeling,
gonna
Chuck,
pay?
that they're going to want us, that's why I just added the part, the town administrator doesn't seem to feel that we need better water than what is being supplied. Or maybe it's that we're not using that, we've been supplying the drinking water. But in the last few months, the issue became the cooking and the cleaning. That's why we shut the water off. We've always been using the water to that capacity.
So the whole problem is in this vicious cycle, right? With all the treatment and having to switch from 2 different treatments. And so we just, when we had this whole assembly of people here, the person sitting to the right in that corner, that's the one that came up with this
Yes, Dr. Gulick. He wrote the improvement.
young person that was sitting.
He was sitting near Peter with, yeah.
I think he had a mask on.
Peter had the mask on,
Oh, Peter
and
had, I
Dr.
thought he had a mask on
Gulick was
too.
sitting near him.
Okay, yeah, I thought he had a mask on.
Peter was, that's who wrote the improvement plan to submit to DEP.
So, do we have room in Blackstone schools to temporarily move our students into only Blackstone, and then they can solve their problem, and then we plan on shortly thereafter they solve it, move the kids back?
Can I just have a clarifying question on your question?
Okay.
You said room in Blackstone for Blackstone, or do
Oh,
you
for
mean?
the Blackstone Millville kids.
Okay, all right. I want to make sure that, yeah, you're saying all the
All of the
students.
kids.
If we had to move the students to the complex, could we? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we could do that if we needed to.
So Millville is, won't pay for the water unless we pay for it, and, just we could use that as, we could do this.
I just want to make sure we give them the time to do what they promised they were going to do.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be a hard line this summer if we're not at a certain place where we're going to have that very serious conversation.
Well, and there has to be, right?
There has to be, because we're talking about
day, you have to
first
have
day of
clean
school for preschool kids, kindergarten kids. That's their first day of school in a building that obviously needs to be safe. It's going to be their school. So a temporary move, like we did a few years ago, I don't know if we moved Blackstone to Millville, that was super temporary, and it was older kids. It was not their first exposure to school. It's just a really big, I really hope Millville realizes how serious this is, because to do that, it's very hard in many ways, and it's probably not just temporary.
And to your point, when I emailed the town administrator, the DEP rep, the water operator, and their water consultant, I did say that a clear and definitive timeline is going to be critical in making sure we can actually return children to that building. So I made it very clear that that is not a definitive, and we need the information.
Do we have a date that we need that by?
exactly-
Clearly,
that's
it's like
exactly.
a big move.
We're waiting to see what they respond to
Well, they said they
as
need
far
4
as
weeks.
the timeline. Their turnaround to get this done is 4 weeks. So if you're doing the math, and they need time to start the system and get it running and test the water and all of that, you're looking at a 5 to 6 week window. So that window is closing quickly. Yeah.
Early August.
I think we need to set a date on when we are gonna pull the plug on it and say, all right, we're making this move. Whether it's August 1st, because there's busing, there's
I
everything that
agree,
needs to be.
I agree. So we have a plan ourselves if we do need to move, because busing
Correct.
is a huge thing too. And they plan that, takes
Those
them
parents-
probably quite a while.
Well, the good news is all the kids are on the same buses, so
Yeah.
that is actually probably one of the easier pieces this
Right.
time.
That'll help.
But it's not just having the buses drop off at the
Right.
complex. Instead, it's everything inside that building.
Yep,
getting moved
the
and set
teachers
up
need to be
yeah.
ready, and it's their summer.
Well, and also I think it's important to note when we had the mold issues at the complex and we shifted to Millville, it was a few days. That wasn't like a huge long term. If we're moving preschool, kindergarten first, if we're moving those classrooms with our little ones, I think we need to be committed to being there
For the year.
for the year. I mean, we can't shift. These are little guys. Like, we can't shift them after a week and bring them back. And if you've seen a kindergarten classroom, they have tons of manipulatives and stations and materials. And so I think when we think about a date, while I wholeheartedly agree, I do think it would be important to see what they respond. We have another meeting on July 10th. So I think it would be good for us to revisit this and see what we have for that timeline then, and possibly make some decisions
And
then.
we might need to schedule another meeting
Right.
but I think it'll give us a better idea on Millville's timeline, because right now they're waiting for that approval. In my opinion, if they get that approval tomorrow, which is a Friday, doesn't matter, it should be sent to Northeast Water Solutions, and that stuff should be being ordered Monday. There shouldn't be we got it on Friday and next Tuesday. So we're going to see how serious they are about moving the process. And it was said at their meeting on Tuesday it's only been a week that they submitted it. So, I mean, we could check with Mary Jude.
She responded right
later
away.
and
Yeah,
say-
she was very,
How long would we expect a corrective action plan to be approved? Because there was that other guy, Bob, that would be approving it, right? That was with Mary Jude?
I don't know what their internal approval process is, but he is our local rep, Bob Bostwick. And the corrective action plan was submitted on Tuesday, June 13th.
So as long
You have
as
that in your
Millville does
packet.
keeps that process moving, there is still time.
We may need to add another meeting for
We
ourselves.
might, after July, I think at our July 10th meeting, we'll know if we need
Yeah.
that.
Because the next one after that is August 28th.
That's
so
not
we're gonna
good.
need- yeah.
No, we might have to do something
Late July.
depending on where that timeline is falling.
In the meantime, though, our lawyer is absolutely
Very
going to send a
involved.
letter
Yep.
saying this does not set a precedent for any water purchasing.
She's also clarified for them, there is a misconception that among the Millville Board of Selectmen and the town administrator, that Blackstone pays, that we pay Blackstone for the water, which we do not at the complex. We do for the district-owned buildings, but the town-owned buildings with our lease agreements, the towns have always paid that. But for here in the high school, we pay because these are district-owned buildings. So in her response to the town's attorney, Millville's attorney, she has spelled all that out. So there are no bones about how this system works financially. So I think we're in good standing. I think the next piece of the puzzle is waiting to see what they give for us as far as the timeline goes. And I think, Ted, to your point, we may need to schedule that follow-up meeting. We'll know more, I think, by July 10th when we meet again. And I'll keep you updated, obviously, as we go between then.
Any other comments on Millville Water before we move on? All right. So I would just say, stand by for July 10th. It's a moving piece for us. Hopefully with no move in the end. All right, moving on, we have MSBA update, the initial compliance certification and school building committee selection.
Tara, would it be okay if I did the compliance and then I'll kick it back to the to you for the school committee piece. So just two things. The initial compliance certification is in your packet. Erin and I did sign that and submit that. The short version is, it's all of the stuff that we know about process and working with the MSBA, it's just all in one place. So we've reviewed it very thoroughly. I did review it with our counsel, with the school committee legal counsel, as advised by MSBA. They had no feedback for us other than there's no wiggle room here. These are the rules that you have to play by. But just to make sure our ducks are in a row, that there were no issues, we did that. So that has been submitted. The due date on that to MSBA was June 30th. That went in last week. So we're in good standing as far as that is concerned. The second piece, just a very quick update that's not on here, but the leadership team has worked very hard to complete is our education profile. That is a really significant document. And the headline to what that is all of the grade configurations that we want to explore through a feasibility study. We actually have to lay out in writing for MSBA, but not as simple as, we're looking for these different options. We actually have to literally count classrooms, office spaces, phys ed spaces, alternative pathway spaces. It is a very tedious project. So the leadership team, we've met, I think, 3 or 4 times for 3+ hours at a shot. This is due August 31st. We are 99% done. We have 2 things that we need to do. We need to clean up just the language and kind of wordsmith, do some like editing revisions kind of thing. And we have to include what updates that have happened to the high school since it was open. So we'll add those few pieces. We'll do those revisions. At this point, the document is over 20 pages. It was, 3 or 4 when they sent us the template. And I just want to give a huge shout out to our team, because we literally locked ourselves in an office for 3 or 4 different occasions, and through a Google document, huddled up in smaller groups and really attacked this document to help us construct really a vision for what this reconfiguration could look like, and using obviously the new facility as the launch pad for that. The specifics went to the capital planning committee, so we talked that through. And when it is ready to share with MSBA, I'll send it out to the school committee, so you all can get a sense of what that looks like. It's pretty neat to see it all kind of laid out in writing, and what the different visions for the different configurations could be. And Tara, the school building committee?
Yes, so we have the school committee will approve the members of the school building committee for the MSBA project. So in your packet, there is a list of proposed members. These people either spoke, expressed interest, or were reached out to by being recommended by others. And Jason did send emails to anyone that was suggested, and everyone on the list, it sounds like had said yes, except for Jennifer Gill. She had a conflict.
I think
other
we're
commitments.
adding Jane Reggio.
Yes, and Jane Reggio is missing from the list.
Oh, okay.
She had said yes. And then Tanya had just asked about adding Sarah Peters as a CPAC rep. We also need to decide how many of the members and who can vote. So like if there's things that come up throughout the project that need to be changed, do we want only residents to vote? Do we want others who work in the buildings voting rights? And then we need like a number. So there's kind of a lot to talk about right now. Thoughts on that? Do we want it to be even numbers? Do we want odd number of the total? Erin had pointed out that it seems like a lot of names right now, is a lot of voices, but is it better to start with a lot because it's going to be a few years? Are we going to lose some of these members? So maybe having it heavy to start, is it better?
And can we add can we add people as the years go, or is it?
I would think we'd be allowed to replace
fluid.
at least, right?
Replace?
It's a fluid.
Because I feel like what's missing here is, and I'm not this isn't anyone's fault because I was part of asking people to be on. But I think we need some younger parents of the pre-K, K1, 2s. These are the kids that are coming into this building or this structure that we go to based on the feasibility study. So is it okay once we start this committee and approve this if we are continuously adding
Right.
members?
It is, we can do that.
We can?
Yep.
I just think it's important to have those voices.
The initial group
Yeah.
is due to the school committee,
Yeah.
MSBA by July 31st, I believe.
So do we have to have them before that?
No.
Or we just?
We can make changes
This is the
beyond.
initial one to go.
Yep, just the initial list.
And then the only other thing I was looking at, based on whether we do voting of everybody, and if we do, then I think what I'm about to say is null and void. But if we do go to just town residents, looking at this list, we don't have equal opportunity representation from both towns at this time. So it would be important to make sure, so if we're adding a CPAC member, is there a Millville member versus a Blackstone member? We could leave that seat without a name since someone else just volunteered her anyway. And make sure that we get a Millville person in that seat. I don't know who's on CPAC, but
So-
if there's another member, that would be Millville versus Blackstone.
So, as far as sports go, who on this list is going to speak out the loudest for sports? Kerry?
I am too. I'm going for that stadium, Chuck, just so you know. The front of our school is going to look very
The
different.
gym, the basketball,
I
the
won't-
exercise area,
100%.
training.
Everything's
So
gonna be
who-
like it was at my
you know,
house.
We want to make sure we're strongly represented there.
And we can have
Would the
subcommittees
athletic
too, right?
director
We talked about.
be a possible addition there?
We can add the AD. We also have Jill Fowlis that will be on. Whether or not the committee decides the administration will be voting members or not is up to you, but
Or you're welcome to join this list too if you want.
So I'm
As
just
a
thinking.
sports-
It's a 5-year committee, 5-year commitment.
Yeah. Will I be alive?
Stop it. What? We all will.
All right. I would like to be on this list.
Anyone else? Any other committee member?
There's another Blackstone.
Ted Novio.
I'll do it.
Oh, that's
There's
Millville.
Yay.
Thanks, Ted. We're all welcome, just so you know, because we are all already here wanting better and it's not, it's going to be a lot of work to communicate, to make sure we have people at the town meetings when the votes are needed. Again, that's why we need the younger parents. I don't know how we're missing that.
We need to reach out
Yeah.
to some young.
I think that I think there was some thought around there is a parent group building a better BMR, and I think they're soliciting that support of those individuals. But I think if they just have members that are attending, that I'm sure they can be on both.
We don't have anyone from that group on this list,
No, and I think
Can
there
they not be?
Well, I think probably the two that are chairing it shouldn't be.
right?
But I think if there are parents that are just volunteering to help the parent group, can sit on this committee.
And then bring it back to them.
Yep. I just think, the chairs probably shouldn't sit on this committee.
I agree. Okay.
Yep.
So do we want to approve or go through this list and see who we want to approve? Or do we want to finesse this and vote on it at the July 10th meeting?
I mean, I think it's always good to be ahead of schedule
Yeah.
since it's due by July 31st. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong because I wasn't there, but you did dissolve your committee as it stood, right?
Yeah,
Or is
well,
that what it,
Yeah, the capital,
Yeah.
and this is going to be the
this is
new,
going to replace it.
Yes.
The small capital planning group is still meeting to
Yes.
prioritize and get that work done, but.
so I think we have enough people here to form a committee and make any changes as needed. That's nice.
Okay.
Jason, do we have any town administrators or assistant town administrators?
replied, did
Nothing
they?
either.
No.
Did they say no, or did they just not reply yet?
I think we were just trying to figure out who that was.
Yeah, I think we were waiting till that dust settled on
Right.
the two current ones.
Did we reach out to anybody on the police department or anything? Just, I figured coincides with the safety stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, we didn't. We,
Tough to get them to commit to coming to all those meetings, right?
Some of them are parents.
Maybe, yeah.
Are any of them parents of preschoolers?
Yeah. Two
Important.
birds, one stone.
some of our detail officers have younger, they're not pre-K, but they're younger, yeah, like elementary age.
Any elementary parents would be helpful. I think we're hopeful for the 5-year project, but this is going to impact all of those kids.
We certainly can reach out to see what the interest is there.
So we're gonna look for an SRO or the like.
Or a
That's up
detail
to-
officer or
But
something in the police.
preferably a townsperson too, though, right? Someone that fits that, both of those roles.
That'd be nice.
Town parent.
Yeah.
So should we vote this as it stands and then leave openings for CPAC, SRO, or are we really inserting someone that didn't volunteer? I don't know.
No, I
Leave
think,
it open.
yeah, let's leave them open.
Insert the position, the description of the opening on the committee, can we do that where it's?
Do we want to tie ourselves to that, though, in case we don't get that title?
Yeah.
And we can add it.
And what we can do is send an
Too.
invitation to, so let's send one to BME PTO, let's send one to CPAC, like, let's leave open seats for them. But at least we have an organized committee to submit for the July 31st.
Yep. Yeah, and when we went through this list, there's a page that has like different like designations, like certain ones you need. And we were able to fill in every box. So we'll just have additional members to what they like really suggest required.
One of the things that the MSBA did recommend is making sure you've got a group that is a manageable size. So just
Well,
being thoughtful about
well, yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get decisions done
And just understanding that it's a 5-year process, so who will still be alive?
I mean, right now we have 19 names, and if we have a couple more positions, we're probably looking at around 25, which I think is a very big group.
Hard to get a consensus.
Probably not manageable.
Right. But you did mention that we can vote on who has voting ability and who is non-voting. So as a non-voting member, they're able to advise or, and maybe they can be more fluid in the, in being there.
Right.
Where it is such a commitment.
True.
I think you might get more buy-in from the, the parents with the younger children who are probably stretched and doing a lot of other things where they can kind of jump in here and there.
Right.
Maybe that goes back to the Building a Better BMR group,
To the group,
where they're
yeah.
doing some footwork for us versus
not doing it
being
for us.
actually
Not for
on
us,
the.
they're-
Not for us,
Well-
they're doing it on their own. We have nothing to do with
They
that
are, but
group.
what I'm saying is, can they be out,
We have
if
nothing
they're-
to do with that group, Madam Chair.
but can we ask them to help us?
No,
No.
they are a
Not from that capacity.
nonprofit, 100% not part of our work.
We could be members, but not as school committee reps.
Right.
Is that right? Worded right? Right, so we'll approve the names that we have down. And we can complete the form for MSBA. And then we can, because they have the voting member question mark on that, so that'll help assign the number of voters.
Well, once you tell me what you want as far as voting, the committee, as far as voting members of this, I'll complete that and submit it through our MSBA portal.
Right, because I think in addition to this, some of the others should have voting rights, so we'll have to determine that.
Go back and revise.
I didn't bring my, do you have your filled-in copy, Jason? I didn't, or Carrie? I didn't bring my copy from
I didn't bring
our
my
meeting
capital
either.
planning folder, no.
My capital planning folder.
So we're going to appoint the committee tonight and decide who votes tonight?
I think we need to.
Okay.
If we're gonna do this, we need to complete it. All right. I just wanna go down the list? Or do we wanna say
Let's go down the
5 and
list.
5? I don't know what the best way to do it is. So we have 3, 4, 5 school committee members? How many school committee members do we want to vote?
Do we have
What did we do
13
last?
total without, if we just do town members without doing
Oh, that's right, if we take away the,
administrators?
yep.
You're including Scott, right? Because he's a town.
Well, that's what I was just gonna ask. I don't know what role we then put Scott in.
I would say he
But
gets a voting.
If you're saying
he's
town votes.
town, even though he's also.
But give us
school.
some examples of what it looks like if, for voters.
So some scenarios, they, and there's no right or wrong, but some have just the members of the committee that are residents that are able to vote. Some have just the residents of, on the committee and the superintendent and the high school principal, like those that are going to be managing. And some don't. Some, the superintendent and the high school principal can't vote because they don't, if they don't live in town. So it all depends on, and some committees, they let everybody vote. So the things that you're voting on are things like change orders. You know, we have to change the vinyl tile in the foyer to something else because we have to cut the budget. Or we have to move a staircase because it's, you know, too expensive where we have it initially located. So it's those, a lot of those types of projects. Some of it can be pretty tedious. Just to give you some like examples.
Makes sense that members of the school committee would have voting rights. Start there.
Okay, so
And then
I think everyone on the committee should be able to vote. I don't think it becomes a Blackstone Millville thing. I think it becomes a school building. And if we're entrusting this list of people as the school building committee, why wouldn't we make everyone equal? And we need that work to move, and that's going to be the point of this committee. So and it sounds like some of the things we're going to have to vote on are going to be things that would be decisions that have to be made, and I don't think that should fall on one person or someone that doesn't have a voice in it either. So, I mean, even if this list didn't have names on it and it just had like
Titles.
who they were, I would say this is our committee. They are collectively working for the better of.
You're gonna decide on a percentage, how many votes to pass, so.
right.
Right? Is it majority? Is it 2/3? Is it?
It doesn't say on here, did it? I don't remember reading it anywhere.
I've not come across, if it's a 2/3 or a majority. It also could depend on what the issue is. I have to look to see if MSBA has any recommended guidelines for that. I'll look into that.
I just think everyone should be equal on the.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve everyone we listed tonight and allow all to be voting members?
Motion.
So the motion is made by Tara S. and second by Kerry. And that motion is to approve the school building committee list in front of us with the addition of Jane Reggio, Chuck Dunton, Ted Novio, a CPAC parent, and an SRO that is hopefully a townsperson. Is that how we want the motion to read?
Yeah, and if we want to add the other things later, they get
Okay.
added, other type.
Okay, any other discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
What?
Abstain.
You're abstaining? All right, so motion is approved with one abstention. You want Jason to notify everyone that they're now on the school building committee?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Sure. Just one clarifying question. Tara, you chaired the capital planning. Should we have you open that first school building committee meeting and then discuss a chair of that? So just so I know who I'm partnering with to set all of this stuff up.
That makes sense.
Is that okay with everybody to do that?
Do you have
to
a
start?
date, did you talk about a date for that yet? Or?
No, that's why I wanted to ask, because I want to get the first meeting on the books.
Yeah.
So I want to know who to
You want
talk
it to be
to.
before
I
July
think we talked about
31st?
just keeping it the Wednesday that we've been doing, but July is 4th of July. And then it would be like the August unless we pick a mid-July date.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm okay to partner with you on,
Yeah.
that works for everybody, to get that set up? Okay. Sounds great.
All right, moving on to the report of the superintendent.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We have a few things for this evening. First, we are going to hear an update from two members of our Blueprint 2.0 team. We're really excited because as the school committee and community knows, this is truly the document that's driving the work that we're doing in our school system. And so we're going to hear just a brief update tonight from Jenny and Mary. And actually, it's a nice segue into the evaluation, superintendent evaluation, which is really an evaluation of all of us and our goals and the work that we're doing. So Jenny and Mary, thanks so much for being here. And you might tag in some of our colleagues in the back too as we go. And I have the button. Let me bring it to you.
So the committee is not just me and Mary, it's actually those people hiding behind us. They won't come up. They did a lot of work too. So the purpose of it is kind of update everyone on the blueprint and also inform you the next steps. Okay, so the blueprint is, you all seen it before at the beginning of the year. And we form a committee. These are all the committee members. They're not all here, but they all did the work together. So Mary's going to talk about the curriculum piece, which is the first pillar.
So these are the things that we had accomplished for this school year. We had launched the new K-12 math curriculum. That's going quite well. We created the social studies curriculum committee. We did the work. We aligned the social studies curriculum and the materials with the math standards. We also revised the curriculum map and aligned it with the math standards. And we did select, as you know, a new history curriculum, and it's been approved, and is almost all of it is already in the schools as we speak. And we've also established a writing curriculum from K to 5, which we'll continue to work on for the next school year.
So as Jason mentioned in my evaluation, talk about the second column of is instruction. So we have the tools, the curriculum, and the instruction is the piece that you put into work, put in action. So a lot of work is really based on portrait of graduate. From pre-K to 12. We say pre-K to 12 is not just high school. We have the POG from the high school, and then each school worked on our own POG for our kiddos. And for example, at the complex, I can only speak for the complex, we developed I-CAN statements, same thing with Millville. Those categories in the POG is like put into action in the instruction. For example, one of the things that is the communication. One of the I can statement is, I can show what I know in more than one way. And another one is I can understand and share information. That's kind of like focusing on the writing piece, which is our student learning goal. As I can speak for Christina as well, is her student learning goal. So the whole instructional piece is really based on the POG. And I know that at the high school, Jill, you can jump in. You're developing a rubric on critical thinking. Do you want to speak a little bit about that? I told you I would call you out.
Yes, our goal is, so we have a critical thinking rubric. We have a critical thinking rubric already. And then we will, we have a collaboration rubric that the staff is going to work on and actively use and revise. And in the fall, I'm putting the character and citizenship on my student leadership group to create themselves. Because who better to tell us what it means to be a good citizen and good character at BMR than our kiddos. So that's that process. So we'll have 4 of the 5 officially checked off by June.
And I would just say, like, just to affirm what, like, Jill, I had the pleasure of helping one of our ELL students do her civics project, and she based some of it on Portrait of a Graduate, and she even wrote it in Portuguese on her civics project. So it's across the board in these schools that they're following it.
And then we talk about instruction is all means all. We want to establish that MTSS system to provide students with accommodations and modification to provide instruction to all students. We have established the MTSS team and also an advocate program at the JFK AFN complex.
So for the whole child, each building looks a little bit different, but they've all launched a whole child initiative, and in the way that they're training all the faculty and staff in each building. So we've done that during PD days, we've done it during staff meetings and in PLCs as well. And we've also were awarded the CELIS grant, as you know, and we have provided that the students have taken it now once in the fall, and they took it again in the spring. And they've been using, each school's been using that data also to work on the whole child and to also work on instruction as well.
And we also have the student,
yes,
the family survey back, and when we look at it, it's sad to say, a lot of kids feel like they're not kind to each other. Family express that. I don't know if they don't know how to be kind because of not try to blame COVID, but that interaction with their peers, that piece was missing for a couple of years. So we are looking at our curriculum. It's not just instruction, but also how do we apply. We want to look at that piece. How do we teach kids to apply what they learn in the classroom? Okay, and then the community, Jill Fowlers and Emily Turgeon, they developed a survey, and so they collect information from the community. We also establish a list of people that are willing to support the school. That piece, we still have a lot of work to do because we only have a list. We don't have really put in action yet, but we did establish partnership with Unibank. This year they support us at the 5th grade celebration and also donated popsicle Fridays. So that was really nice. And we're also looking into partnering with the senior center for our champion program, because now the champion program is getting so large, we don't have enough adults to champ those kids. And so we wanted to establish a partnership with the senior center and have them come in and mentor our youngsters. But we still have a lot of work to do with that. Okay, So, so what now what? We have our data. We look at quarterly, looking at our progress, and what do we go from here? So we're going to bring those data and what we have accomplished so far at the August leadership retreat and determine next year, year-long goal and support action step for quarter one. And then continue to align school improvement plan. So we have the blueprint, and then each school will write their school improvement plan based on the blueprint. And then continue with the monitoring team, making sure the implementation across all the schools. And also looking at each school's IoT and the investment into, carrying out the action. And anything else you want to add?
Well, I think just the implementation of your student ILT.
The last thing is with the, a list of community members that willing to collaborate with our schools. We want to now, it put into action. It's not just a list we have, but really, how do we utilize those support? So that will be next year blueprint. Any questions?
So Jenny and Mary, so this set of next steps is going to essentially turn into a series of goals and action steps that would be the year 2 of our Blueprint 2.0.
Yes.
And at the August leadership retreat, which we have 2 days, the first day will be with Bellingham and Hopedale doing our principal PLC work. We're launching that. The second day will be the in-district day. We'll be building this out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I would just suggest, I think we spoke about this the other day, with the, and I didn't know if this was coming up at all, actually, so I just got this today, but with the SEL survey, I assume that's the one that we just recently, the
SEL
children
survey?
just recently took?
Yes.
Right before
No,
exam
that is
school?
That's a
the
separate
NFB.
survey.
That's a separate
the
survey.
parent
Okay,
survey.
so is this one, so I just, as far as the communication piece, I always just stress that parents are communicated with any sort of surveys that the children are receiving, because, it's just good for us to know, as the parents of the school district, to know what the kids are being surveyed on. So I think if you can integrate that somewhere in the communication or,
So do you want something communicated saying your students are going to take a survey
Sure.
next Friday? Or do you want someone in their weekly newsletters or monthly newsletters to say, ask your child about the survey?
No, I think it should be preemptive in nature, of whatever the children are going to be exposed to. So I think
they already notified?
No.
Surveys in school?
So the annual survey that we do, which is MI-eval, the family, student, staff, we do that every year.
We do that as a measurement for one of your, for goals.
So that one we always give. This survey was, you might remember, we saw the data presented, maybe January, I think. January, February, and this was focused on the social emotional learning standards. There's 5 different standards. So this measures essentially how we're doing on those standards. But that's what the survey itself is.
Some parents did.
Did opt out.
Parents, parents were,
Yes.
could opt out. They were notified.
And they could opt out of.
Yes.
The SEL survey.
Correct.
The SEL survey, not the, I want to be clear, I don't want to confuse it with the annual survey.
Yes.
Yeah.
the annual
survey.
family survey that came
That's
to,
right.
to parents.
Yep.
The SELA survey was able to be opted out of.
Yes, and if you
the parent survey, they just don't have to participate.
They don't have to take it, right? And so same with the kids. If you look, or the students, if you look at the survey number, is actually in the data. So when you look at, I'm sure you've already gone through that, but when you look at the student survey, I think about 400 students or 450 students took it. We administered it grades 3 to 11. We have far more than 450,
Sure.
right, in that grade span. So some kids just didn't take it. So they didn't do that.
Right, it's not, they're not sitting down
penalized for
in
not taking
history class and it's like, okay, before we start our lesson, we're all answering the survey together. It's
If
it's
they
sent
don't
to
take it,
them
they
on
don't
their
take
own
it.
time.
At the third grade level, it's sent to them on their own time?
No, the third grade level, there's an option. We did something unique for third grade that we didn't do for the other grades, which is if you looked at the survey, you'll see there's a box where the kids can just check, like, I don't understand this question.
Yep.
So the students could actually, in taking the survey, they kind of could opt out of taking the survey, but just saying, I don't understand this question, I don't understand this question. Some kids did that.
Was it given during the school day?
Yes, I don't know what class it was
Yeah.
given during, but, yeah.
I would just urge, that overall that, as far as like the communication piece that, that's,
Yep, we can
more.
make sure we add that to it. Yep.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just.
Do you wanna just stay?
Yeah, we're just.
You have summer program.
Yeah, we okay to shift gears? Go into the next.
Thank you for all the work on this, and I know it's still continuing, but it's nice to see everything come full circle.
And
So-
they,
And
Yeah.
everyone on this long list that didn't want to join you at the table.
they're being shy.
And just to underscore, this is the work that is moving the school district.
Yes.
It's right in your hands. And so a big shout out to our team for putting the time, effort, and energy in. Speaking of time, effort, and energy, summer programming update, just a very quick update for you. Mary's going to give an overview. I know you're aware of the programs, but we actually have now the student numbers. So Mary, if you want to take a moment and just walk the committee through, because we've got quite a few students that are engaged.
So we have 20 students for each session for Millville, which will be at the complex, but it's for the little ones, and for the summer safety part of that as well. And middle school credit recovery and high school will be combined. So we have 20 students for credit recovery for the high school, and we have 80 students. That's combined with the enrichment, though, so it's not 80 kids for just credit recovery. And then also for enrichment, we have the art program, which was overflowing. We had to actually get another room because so many kids wanted to take it, so, which was really nice. And then, so both of those teachers will be there for both sessions. We have 1 week for the sports, and music will be both weeks as well. And they had 54 kids for that. And then a new program that we started this year will be for the ELL students. And so they'll be getting language enrichment, language acquisition for a week. And I also have 2 students from the high school who speak Portuguese, which will be assisting me. I'm going to teach it, and so they will be assisting me for that week as well.
And just,
I'm
please.
throwing a little update for our ESY for special education. So we have approximately 270 students in the district who are on IEPs, and we have some, throughout the year, teachers need to determine if the nature and severity of the child's disability requires them to have specialized instruction through the summer. So we actually had about 30% of our population, about 80 students who are recommended for ESY, and out of all of those students, 65 of those students will be attending. The parents accepted the services in the summer. So that's about 24% of our students for special ed. So in addition to all the programming going on, we're also going to have that population of special education students continuing through the summer as well.
So in addition to the district summer program, we have the 21st century program. We have right now we have 104 students sign up, which is way over 100. Our goal is 100. So the coordinator say, should we stop? I say, nope, we'll just hire more people. We're very happy that this year we have a lot of student interns coming back. I think the kids like them better than the teachers. They just need a break from the teachers. So we're very excited. So that will be the ELA and math rotation along with activities such as theater, arts, PE, SEL. We're using the SELS data and looking at the components that like this decision making. So we'll be working on that, and also self-regulation, using team building and teaching student respect, empathy, and gratitude. We also have yoga for mindfulness, and also STEAM project. And Jason, you would like this one, is gardening. So the kids are planting vegetables. We'll be dropping some off in the central office. They will be able to take them home for their parents, the kids that are involved. So we're very, very excited with our program.
That's awesome.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Jenny, just a quick piece. The 21st century, so the community has a sense. That grant is about $75,000 a year.
172
Per year?
Per year.
Okay, and we had that for 3 years.
Actually, because of
And we got an
COVID, they
extension.
extended to 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we still have 3 years left.
Very
3
good.
years? 3?
So that is a huge amount of money.
That is.
And then as we're speaking of the financial piece, the summer programming separate from 21st Century and separate from transportation costs about $40,000. We've been running this on our ESSER dollars, but this will be the last summer of that. So I'm just forecasting, because my head's already in FY25, that we need to think about a budget line for summer programming, because if we've seen it, like, the kids will come. If we build this, the kids sign up. We heard we have extra, we needed to hire an extra art teacher. We had so many students that were interested. So I just want to make sure that we are kind of just filing this in the back of our head as we're thinking about budget for FY25.
Any questions?
Do you have any summer plans besides all of the summer work?
I don't travel, so I'm happy just be home. Jason asked me that. I said, I'm happy just sitting on my porch and have my coffee in the morning. I'm happy with that.
The beach. The beach. Good.
She has a cabana.
Take a few days for yourself.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But again, this is amazing. 104 students. You're right. We are going to have to, like, if you build it, they do come. But I'm glad to hear we have 3 years left.
Yeah.
Because it's very successful.
It's a great program,
Yeah. Good. All right.
Thank you.
Nice work.
you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody. Next, I'm going to ask Dan Saltzman, our lead technician, our lead, to come join us and talk a bit about 2 pieces. One, the school committee asked a year ago, last spring, so I want to say it was the spring of '22, for some support and direction in changing not just the new registration process to electronic, but we all know as parents, that packet we get every year, that's about this thick, that we have to fill out and update and all of that to make that somehow electronic and easier for parents. So Dan and our tech team have been hard at work putting that process together. So I know Dan's going to give an update on that. And also is going to talk a bit about the technology office reorganization. You may recall when we had our budget workshops in January, when the technology, Dan presented the technology budget, one of the pieces that he discussed was the need to reorganize the data specialist position into an assistant office manager for the technology office. For those who may not remember, Dan just consults with us. We don't have a full-time tech director, and it's worked out really well. We have never had our technology infrastructure or hardware the place that it is. Dan, that's your good work and the good work of the team that we have. But I know that you've, in the past year, really been looking for a different model to help even deepen the work. So I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about those 2 pieces.
Thank you, Jason. So the first thing I'll talk about is the digital registration. You all have, I think, in your packet a sheet about this, and I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of that. You can sort of follow along. And I think the focus here is on the re-registration piece, but ultimately this is all part of one package, and the digital registration part, like registering the new kids, is actually a bigger piece of it. So I'll just walk through, what got us here and where we are. So we set out to do this, as Jason said, quite a while ago. We looked at different products, and in the end, it just made sense to go with the module of our school information system that we already have. It does what we need, the price is right, and it is already a piece of our technology. So we set out to implement that about 6 or 7 months ago, and we've had regular meetings with an implementation team. There are people from Aspen that do that, and then we have people in the IT department that meet regularly with these folks to do that. So we gathered all of the paper from the district that has been passed out and used over the years to do this type of registration. And we had to figure out, like, what questions are we asking? There's duplicate questions across all the different documents. We had to make sure that we're not asking multiple questions, the same way, and we had to make sure that we're asking every question from every document in some kind of an organized fashion. So we went through all that paper and we weeded out the duplicates, and we looked at what data is required and what data is optional, and we had to flag all of these things for the system to, any type of system you've been on where you get the little asterisk that says this is required or this is not required. All those things had to be done. We had to make sure that the wording of every question is exactly the way that we wanted at this district. There might be a default way of asking for maybe referring to a parent where we want to refer to a guardian. All of these things have to be gone through one at a time and figured out and put into place correctly. So we basically completed the registration part of it, the new student registration part, about a month ago, and we're ready to go on that. And we've now moved on to the re-registration piece. That, like I said, is a subset. It's not as big of a lift. And at this point, having gone through the whole process with the team, we feel like we're pretty close to the re-registration piece being done as well. I think we'll have that done end of July, and we'll be ready to go definitely beginning of August. So we'll be able to do that. That's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know what questions you have on that process or anything. Go for it.
I'm just excited to have this as an option. It has been years in the asking, so.
I will not miss the green paper, the purple paper.
The whole packet.
Yeah, it was interesting to go through all the paper and see,
For years.
Yep.
And then you have two kids come home with the
Right.
same packet?
Yeah. Yep. This will
will be
definitely be better. And we'll be going through some iterations of it as we experience questions and issues that come up, but it's going to be great right at the beginning.
So this will have to go out to elementary families, because right now it's only middle school and up that use Aspen, right?
So
Yeah, there's a piece that the elementary will have to be able to log on and
Yeah.
figure out how to.
Right.
Get logins.
Yep.
Yeah, for the re-registration piece, everybody will need an Aspen account, and that is probably the biggest lift of all of this, is just making sure that everybody has it. I think that said, if for some reason someone doesn't have an account, we can certainly take in paper the old-fashioned way for a particular person. I don't know if in the end that would be easier or not, but that's not what we're hoping for, that's for sure.
And can I piggyback on that, Dan?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we, if you can believe this, we used to do paper timesheets, like literally up until the middle of this year, and switched everything over to electronic. So you would think that would be a simple process, but actually it was fairly complicated in a lot of different ways. But even with that, we had to have a transition period where we still had to collect the paper to confer with what was entered in electronically to make sure that everything matched. And so I envision there might be some of that for
Yep.
some families that are struggling with the online piece, and
Right.
but we'll get there.
And sometimes, if you have a digital system, to go outside of that system can be really inefficient. In this case, every bit, whether it's digital or paper, every one of these submissions has to be processed by somebody. So if we do have a few pieces of paper from a couple of families, it's not really the end of the world.
And you have to register for everything in the world anyway, so people are going to be able to figure this out.
Well, and honestly, I'm envisioning this, so parents that have older kids do have that login, but everyone got it when they entered this building anyway, so it's actually going to make that process easier when they become,
Right,
they're already
already
going to have
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
It's not going to be like that big upload of sixth graders anymore
Right.
to get them online.
Yep.
No, it's just the upload of
It makes it
pre-K
easy.
through 5 this year.
Well, just one year, and then you're not.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Then when you register, you'll have your information.
But it's really not every pre-K through 5, because if you
No.
had an older.
Correct, you already have
child,
it.
Your
Already logged,
elementary
you'll have an
one
account.
showed on your
It's
list
almost
anyway,
like
so.
they're just gonna have to like
Find that. kid.
let them, the parent view it now, because you could never see them before.
Elementary.
When you had older kids, but elementary.
Yeah, that wasn't open.
Right,
Yeah.
they weren't.
Now it'll be open.
How I understand it, the logins at the family level?
Yeah, when you log in as a
Aspen.
parent, you can see all your kids.
Correct, okay.
You can see all their grades.
Yeah.
And, but
It's a great tool.
it is, it will make it much easier, so thank you for organizing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that? Okay, so to the reorganization that we're talking about. Ultimately, since I got here, which to be totally honest with you, I'm losing track. What was that, 2018, Jason?
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
2018, 19, somewhere
There
around
have been significant changes in that time. I mean, COVID itself was a huge transition in technology, a real big increase overall. But even without COVID, there's just been a steady march that's really accelerated over the past 4, 5, 6 years. In that time, we've implemented, and again, if you have the sheet, that's in your packet and you want to follow along here, we've implemented a large number of software systems and software as a service systems. Clever is a huge one. That's the single sign-on that everybody uses at the district. We've got the daily time entry that we were just talking about, the online registration that we were just talking about, STARS, all these things that you see in that list. It's a huge amount that involves the technology, or that involves the technology department, that 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago literally had nothing to do with the technology department. So the timesheets and the registration is, in particular, the timesheets is a good example. Before, we had nothing to do with that. We really had nothing to do with it. And now it's really dependent on us. And at the end, I'll tell you, maybe I'll take a detour right now to tell you about this. We had a huge fiasco with that yesterday. They updated the system without telling us, and it changed the look of it for all the people that use it, so all the employees of the district. And it was something that we had to jump on as a tech department that, previously it didn't even exist, right? It was something that was done on paper. It was the finance folks that did it, and we wouldn't have had anything to do with that process. So that's just an example of how everything's creeping into IT. We've also made all sorts of hardware changes to our network. You guys have heard about some of it. I know some of you are new, but we've done now a one-to-one Chromebook situation. We manage thousands of devices there. We have these ViewSonic view boards that we brought into the district, new servers, virtual servers, hardware servers. We have staff Chromebooks. We have a new telephone system that's now really essentially a computer system, right? Every phone is a computer from a network perspective. Didn't used to be like that a few years ago. We've got that new E911 system that allows for all sorts of things that I believe you guys are aware of from a safety perspective. Again, this is all done by the IT department, where in the old days it might not have been. We have all sorts of redundant systems in our storage and our servers and our hard drives, and even our data backup systems are redundant. None of this existed 5, 6 years ago. We've also had changes to the process of the IT department. So as was mentioned earlier, I'm a consultant. I'm not here full time. I'm not here every day. We currently report directly to the superintendent. It didn't used to be like that. We're now managing the purchasing. We have grants that we have to keep track of. This is all, again, stuff that was not happening years ago. So ultimately, what we need is the person that has been in this role of data specialist. We need to increase their responsibility so that if, in particular, when things happen, that I can get in touch with that person knows what's going on, and be able to jump on things and to make it so that we can be ready for whatever comes up. In addition to that incredibly important piece, there's just more stuff to do. When I first got here, that role was essentially to kind of push data to DESE for state reporting. And we still do that, but it's done in a different way. And there's so much more that this person has to do now. So it's really just a recognition of the changes. And it's my understanding that the budget piece of it has been approved. And this is really just to change the title, which I think would be appropriate. Are there any questions that you have about that?
Can I ask a clarifying? Dan, on the second page,
Yeah.
so the managing the help desk, project management of new tech initiatives, liaison between lead consultant and BMR. Are these the additional responsibilities?
Yes.
On top of, okay. So you've got it kind of bucketed in two different pieces here.
Yep, and to be honest with you, a lot of that is already being done because it has to be done. So again, this is really a formal recognition of what we need, and to some extent what's already being done.
And how many data specialists do we have?
One.
So if I understand the recommendation, it's to convert the data specialist position to an assistant office manager
Right.
position.
And we have, as noted in here, so we used to have 2 techs, we now have 3. One of those folks is helping out with some of that, some of the data reporting work and things like that. So a little bit of that is going to shift to one person, and then this other person will take on more of these responsibilities that I've been talking about.
So I feel like the only thing we talked about previous was, is this the right title for that job? And it wasn't a question of, like, if this title was being picked because it's already in the unit contract? And that fit the pay grade?
Yeah, and I think if I'm understanding, Dan, your structure correctly, that is actually what you're looking for, like an office manager.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think it's a combination of what both of you said. We had a menu essentially to choose from, and so we had to pick one. And then what you just said is exactly right. We've moved some things around, and this really is an office manager position that's also doing some data work, a lot of data work.
And the 10,000 was in your technology
Yep.
budget that was approved?
Yeah.
I remember you presenting to us. It was probably January, right?
Yeah, it was January.
So with the budget being approved the way it was, the money's there. And we just need to approve the title?
Yes.
Or, no, we need to approve
The reorganization.
because this is already a position in our, right?
Yes, that the school committee has approved through the Unit C contract.
Technology office reorganization.
So we're looking to make a motion to change the title of data specialist to assistant office manager
For the technology office.
for the technology office.
Is that your motion? So motion is made by Tara. Is there a second? Tara L.
Second.
Second by Kerry. So any other clarifying questions, comments? Does anyone want to know how many people are under Dan? How many people are working in your department?
How many people are working?
Currently,
So
yeah.
we have 3 technicians and we have the
3
data
technicians
specialist.
and one.
Yep.
And this is, consider moving the current data specialist to the assistant office manager.
Yes, exactly.
Same person.
Do you foresee us needing a data specialist in the future? Since we're kind of moving,
I think in the future, things will continue to grow. I mean, how far into the future are we talking about? I think we're going to be good with this organization for some amount of time, that's for sure.
It's not a new FTE, you're just looking to add
Exactly,
responsibilities
right,
to this
Right,
person.
and I think what you were asking is, do I foresee a new FTE at some point, right?
right, because we're kind of eliminating data specialists to make assistant office manager.
We're really,
Is encompassed in it.
it's encompassed in it. That's what I was saying, like, we kind of had to choose from this menu from the book, right? These are the different titles that we have to choose from, and we chose that because it's the most appropriate, but it doesn't in any way take away a huge amount of work that's already being done in that position.
Well, I think I heard you say, though, that the data specialist originally was data to DESI,
Yeah.
coming back and forth. And that is different now, is what you said.
Yeah,
The
the
work
data.
has changed.
The data moves in a different way. That's a little bit easier in some respects. It's much more complicated in other ways. But there's just a lot more work that this person does.
Outside of data.
Versus when I first came here, when the data specialist just was basically a state reporting person.
I think it was part-time at one point.
It was,
I
and
think.
it had just been made
Yeah.
full-time
Am I
when I
right?
got here. Yeah,
When you came in?
yeah.
2018? Okay.
That was part of the central office reorganization we did in 2018-19, if you remember that we converted that to a data, it was a technology aid.
Right,
If-
that's right.
You might remember that, and it was a part-time,
Yep.
like a 6-hour position
It
or
was.
something, right?
I
And then
remember this.
we converted that to a full-time data specialist, and we added that to Unit C through negotiations. And now, through all of this, it sounds like we need to do something different.
And the assistant office manager is still Unit C.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a 12-month position, though, year-round.
12 months, definitely not part-time.
No.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to approve the reorganization for the technology office, moving our data specialist position to the assistant office manager position. Any other questions? Okay, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for all of your good work, too.
Yes, we appreciate it. We know the growth. I mean, I've seen the growth. And technology is real.
Yeah.
So
It's been fun.
it does not work on its own.
The people that do the work here in the district, in the IT department, are amazing, and we have a really good team. It's
They're awesome.
Yeah, we're doing well right now, and I appreciate you doing this next step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have an update on our Rave app that Denise presented to the committee a few meetings back, and I know you had asked her to go back out and get some, collect some more information. So Denise, do you want to give an update?
Yes. So we spoke to a couple of different districts, and I also reached back out to the vendor and got some more information and more detail about it. One of the committee's questions was, what can we do if we don't like it? Is there a refund? And actually, it's, in the small print within the contract, there isn't necessarily a refund, to be perfectly honest. But there hasn't been anyone that I've spoken to that has any dissatisfaction. Milford has had it since 2014, and they absolutely love it. And Blackstone Valley Tech has had it. I've spoken to them, and there hasn't been, they each use it to different varying degrees. So some don't use all the functionality, but they all use it and value what it has for the communication directly with the local law enforcement and the emergency response time, and how it can be notifying people within the geo structure of the school district. So, and just as a recap, when we had first talked about it, it sets a geo footprint around each one of the schools, and if you're in that footprint, you will get a notification and be allowed to send out notifications. Only people who will get notifications are the ones that have registered with the district and the phone number. You can have the app on your phone, but you don't have to. If you don't have the app, you will get a text message. If you have the app, you'll be able to interact with it and respond to the emergency. We can set up groups so that certain people will get notifications if a student has had an injury in a hallway. Maybe the teachers can get a notification that comes out from the nurse. This doesn't necessarily go to the emergency response unless it has to, because we can define where it goes and how it goes. So it is really something that's controlled. There are laptops, a desktop model where we do all of the programming. Programming can happen in one day. The law enforcement also has that same functionality to sign into it, so they're not using just an app. They have more functionality to see more behind the scenes also. Anyone have any questions?
Comments?
It's an invaluable tool for safety and communications, and it will, right now everyone's carrying their cell phones anyways, and this will be reaching them where they need to be reached and without having to be attached. As we're talking about students in the high school going out outdoor classrooms, they'll have functionality with them to respond to any scenario.
It's just staff, not students?
No, students do not. I'm sorry, I didn't clarify that.
No, I wanted to just clarify.
So we're not requiring, as administration, we wouldn't be, would you be requiring the teachers to have this on there?
We've spoken with the union about this, and their general sense was that the majority of the staff would actually appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
And even those that, if we didn't require it, that would be a point of bargaining. So if we didn't require it, even those that didn't want to put the app on their phone would still get the information.
It would be one way, right?
Yeah, it'd be one way.
Text format.
So if the committee wanted to authorize me to negotiate this with the union, they'd probably be looking for something in return. I'm not sure what that something would be.
They want their cell phone bill
right?
paid.
I'm not
But at this point, I think the majority of staff get it, and I've heard very positive feedback from staff about the safety work we've done. So I don't think we'd get a lot of pushback there. But we did talk to the union leadership about it.
I've heard from some people that actually have used it, and they liked it. So, the other question I have is how, just for clarification, I know we're probably a little bit further down than that, but how does this respond to, so if there is a situation that needs to go to emergency personnel, how does it respond to them? Is it via app, or does it go to like the,
It goes,
the 911?
so if it's an emergency response where where outside an agency needs to come in, it messages them, it goes through their communication network. It is Motorola functionality, they've just built that into it. And I believe our town, we've already spoken to the EMS, and they would be easily accessed, so it would go right to their 911 dispatching.
Great.
And then it would go from there. We also, like I said, for the groups that we could define other groups also for anything. And that's what I meant by, if an emergency happened on the 3rd floor, we could have, just the teacher. And if we have a crisis team that responds to certain things, we can have crisis teams get notified. So it has a lot of built-in things where you can have all different groups, and it's not just one size fits all.
Great.
But it's not going to reach, so say there's an incident at the high school and Mrs. Follis is meeting with Jason at the complex. If she's out of that geo footprint, is she not going to get?
She will get notified.
Okay.
She will not be able to respond to it because she's out of the footprint. Only people within the footprint can respond.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah, what I mean with the footprint, so the
Geofence.
Understood,
geofencing.
yeah, completely understood. I guess that kind
Okay.
of brought up to, Jason being.
Yeah, there would just be people that would still need that notification.
You would be
but not-
notified, you
Right,
just
but you
wouldn't be able
can't
to
do
interact.
anything.
Okay. And so the paper we have in front of us, Denise, is this?
Yes. This is the,
initial cost?
this is the quote now. You can see, for us, for having it for a certain amount of time, this is the price per year is $5,400. And this was going to be giving us for 36 months. We can do a downsizing of that for 1 year. There is a larger cost. I didn't put that in your packets, but I do have the quote for the larger. So if we chose to do 1 year as opposed to going through the 3-year, the cost would be $7,500 as opposed to the 3-year where it's $16,700. So there is a substantial savings for going through the 3-year
Kind of like.
commitment. And I know that doesn't, I'm not sure that makes anyone comfortable because they want to see how it goes. But like I said, I have spoken to a lot of people. I am comfortable with whatever way anybody would like to go.
And I think my original question was more so if we found people weren't using it, what did it look like financially? But it's a purchase and you own it.
Well, and we would use it. I think we would have it. It's the same kind of scenarios for safety, certain things that we have and we put in place. And they're
You hope
there.
you never need it.
And hope we don't need it. But we still have it. We put numbers on the windows. We've done a lot of things. We don't know that we need them. But if we do, we have it.
Agreed.
When I also think of the medical emergencies,
Yes.
those we have.
Yes, we have.
Unfortunately, we have those routinely. We have an issue with a diabetic student or an injury at the gym, or we can use it for that. And the
Does it be a
principals.
Faster communication for that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and most of the principals have a text thread they have all their staff numbers on it. So they can, like, this would replace all of
Through
that. I can have a
replacement.
group with all of you. So, I know, because you're excited for that. But, I mean, there's a lot of different uses that
See
we
that
can.
in our future.
Good morning, everyone. But there's there's a lot of different uses that we could do with that.
I'll make a motion to approve the rave contract.
Okay, so motion made by Tara L. And we're approving for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Motion made by Tara to approve the 3-year rave contract. Is there a second? Second by Dan. Any other questions for Denise or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous, thank you.
Thanks. And then lastly in my report is my end of year evaluation. And I am being very cognizant of the time. So I will try to move through this at an appropriate pace. A lot of this work, we heard about, frankly, quite a bit of it this evening from Jenny and Mary as they talked a bit about our blueprint. But as you know, that the work that we do as a district is all anchored and driven by that. For this year, the school committee decided in October to evaluate me specifically on these indicators underneath each of these 4 standards. So as we look at the evidence this evening, and again, I won't belabor it, I'll just kind of move through it, but.
Take your time. We knew this was going to be a long
Okay,
meeting.
all right.
And this is a lot of work, so.
Right.
Let's do it time.
So you'll see next to the evidence, the standard and the indicator listed. So when you go back to the evaluation portion of this, you'll be able to link up the evidence with each of these specific standards and indicators. And again, that's for those tuning in at home that might be wondering what all of these letters and numbers are. So our first goal, and I'm not going to read the goals in their entirety, but the first goal was really built around this idea of trying to create a system that works for all students. And I think as you heard probably or read through the survey data, I think we hit the mark on some stuff and we missed it in others. And you heard it earlier about this idea of student kindness. We really have to crack the nut on that. And we have to figure out, how do we work differently with our students so that the climate in our schools is frankly more kind and the kids are kinder to each other. And so I can share confidently that we will get to that point. We've spent a lot of time already with the leadership team looking at those survey results. Each of the principals has them by school so they can see the specific results for each school. And we've looked at the aggregate as a full leadership team 2 weeks ago when the survey closed. So we've already been planning and delving into that. The school improvement planning teams have already started working, and they're using this data, the CELUS data, and they're looking at the resources we have, particularly Choose Love, Second Step, and you heard it tonight a little bit more so about application, like how do we actually help our kids apply these skills, strategies, and learning with one another, frankly. And so for evidence, there's a few different pieces that I wanted to highlight here. One of the things that I tried to do different this year was actually to show photos so that you could see like the work in action. And so I'm going to, Tim's kind of manning the motherboard in there. I'm going to ask Tim to just click on a few things, but for evidence for the end of the year for this particular standard, I highlighted 7 different areas, and I'm not going to have Tim click all of these, but we'll look at a couple in a minute. The first is, and I know that middle of year, the committee heard a lot about this, but is really a summary of our men's leadership group. I will tell you as recent as Tuesday, I had a meeting with our school resource officer to talk about how do we expand this? How do we deepen this work and build in opportunities for our middle school students? How do we deepen this work with the students that are already involved? And how do we look at this as a potential pathway to help with, frankly, the vacuum we have in our first responder positions, whether it's police, fire, EMS, people just aren't going into that work. And so if the premise of this work is to really look at service and helping our students realize that they're part of something bigger than themselves and plugging into that, how might we be able to get all of those different bites?
Asking for access for each.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have it on my, it should have been open. Could you all click those when you open those? Because I won't open them if you had a chance to see them. Did you have a chance to see the photos? So anyway, if you didn't, so all of these are essentially they're just photos of the kids doing the work. They're pretty inspiring. We had an opportunity to visit.
Yeah, it won't let me open those.
No problem, Tim. No worries. We had an opportunity to visit in our work some career development sites, construction, manufacturing. But just to see, when you have a minute, click on those. You can see the kids like using the equipment in like virtual welding and on, I have no idea what this piece of equipment is called. Thank God Scott's here. It's like a backhoe thing. But like seeing the kids like maneuver these different pieces of machinery is really awesome. And then it was kind of funny that the last thing we did was about a week ago. We took the boys out for an ice cream. Right, so these big, like, tough kids that want to do welding, and they had their ice cream cones, and we're talking about, just what an experience they had. So we are looking already for ways to deepen and expand those opportunities. Tim, you can go back to the slide deck, the original one. Which there's a lot up there. The superintendent evaluation one. Poor Tim. Thank you, Tim. In my effort to make this easier, we all saw how that worked. And you don't need to click on any of these, Tim, that I wanted to highlight was the District of One event. I know a lot of you were there. But that was pretty fantastic, and I think one of the strengths to that was the partnership with the elementary and middle school PTO, and just working with the leadership from those two organizations. If you had a chance to attend, you saw that all come together. And we had hundreds of our students and families there. And that was really quite impactful. And Matt, I know we've talked just very preliminarily about how do we kind of put that on the front end and expand opportunities to the community and our community groups through that. So I'm excited for that planning around next steps. The BV Excel piece, as you know, is our our consortium of districts in the Blackstone Valley. And I don't know why none of you can access this, because I actually opened it
all of it at home.
Yeah, I opened it to everybody, so I'm not sure why that's the case.
This is telling me I'm signed in my other.
Okay. But when you click into that, if you haven't already, you will see a listing of opportunities and courses our kids have taken. We've actually had the biggest participation in the Blackstone Valley from BMR, and we have one of the smallest high schools. We've had 19 students participate in BV Excel courses, so it's undeniable that this is working. You'll see the numbers laid out by district. You see some districts have 3 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids, 9 kids. We have, I think, 18 or 19 kids. And one of the things that was so incredible was we had an end of the year celebration at the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce. I went, of course, and you'll see a photo of our students. They got just 4 or 5 of them went, but they got their certificates. But one of the students brought us into the virtual welding lab, and we were trying out the welding. I'm not going to tell you how that worked, but thank God I'm not a welder. But it was pretty awesome to see the students actually doing all the welding on the equipment, and there's like a score at the end and what how the students did. And it was one of our kids that was actually leading the group and showing them how to use the equipment and how it worked. This has been a game changer for some of our students at the high school, a total game changer. Some of the kids have taken the courses multiple times because they can and they want to. They are going into fields. We have juniors and rising juniors and seniors that are now going into these fields because of this opportunity. So again, I couldn't be more pleased with how this has worked. We heard from the Blueprint team tonight. The safety drills and safety upgrades. There's nothing linked here just because of the sensitive nature of that. But I know the committee is very aware of that. The promoting of our school district. We've posted over 650 different posts through. I actually went and counted them. There's a ton of information out there about our district that wasn't out there before. Facebook, on our website, actually on the front page of our website, and on our Twitter feed. So we have an ability through our technology, again, thanks to Dan, that we can go to one stop and post everywhere at once. And we've really been taking advantage of that. I know a lot of you are on those different sites, so you can see that. But when you actually look at the numbers, there's a lot. And that's just me. That's not the schools. That's just me posting from my phone, never mind what the principals are posting in the PTOs, et cetera. So there's a lot of information
Did you ever
going out.
think you'd be so active on social media?
No, I hate social media. And I don't read it or look at it, but I post on it. As a matter of fact, I can't even tell you what it looks like on the
Well,
other
it's
end.
funny, when I was sitting with Jason at the Blackstone Town meeting, I had clicked on something and he goes, "Oh, is that what it looks like?"
I have no idea. Yeah.
It was Facebook district post, and
Yeah.
he had never seen it before.
Didn't realize. But it's a great tool, and we're able to get a lot of information out. And then, of course, the last two pieces are the family and student surveys. And so, as you can imagine, there is a ton of data there to aggregate. I think one of the highlights from the family survey that I want to share, that I think is really important and is a testament to the work that the school committee is doing, that the leadership team is doing, that the teachers are doing in the classroom. There's a lot of important questions, but there are two really important questions. One is anchored in, essentially, do families feel respected by their school staff? And we had over 80% of our families that feel respected by our staff on a regular basis. And that's much, right? So there's levels. There's like much respect, some respect, no respect. And then the some respect had a smaller number, and I think overall it was over 90% of our staff, of our families feel respected by our community. And you might think that that's kind of a silly measurement, but I actually think it's really important. When we talk about culture and climate, and we talk about building a district that works for everybody, respect is a big measurement of that. And we want our families to know that they can walk through the door and they're going to be treated well and fairly by our staff. And over 90% of our families feel that way. That was not always the case. For those committee members I know that have been on the committee for some time will remember, because we've asked these questions year over year. The other part that I think is a really big kudos to the work that everybody is doing is the question that is framed around, do you feel the district is making progress on their goals? We have over 95, it was just about 95% of our community said yes. It was either much progress or some progress. We had 5% that said we're not making any progress. But the fact that 95% of our community feels the district is moving in the right direction is tremendous. And I would challenge any district to get results like that. That is a huge number. And we've never had results like that in the past. So again, I wanted to bring those to the forefront. The areas of work, and you probably saw these in the comments if you've had a chance to look at this, were really anchored around the bullying, teasing, making fun of, right, kids being kind to each other, which we've talked about a lot. And the second piece is really around facilities. You'll read the comments and they're pretty clear. Get a new building. It was said in a few different ways, but those of you that have seen it already have noticed there's a lot of feedback around that. And then the student survey, their comments are always very unique. We ask them the same question, what direction do you want to see the district go in? They're very colorful as far as their answers. Quite a few IDKs. Some new acronyms. I had to ask my boys. I said, what does this mean? What is this? And they just laughed and told me what it was. Yeah. But you can see some of it is, there are questions of kindness. There are questions of, acceptance and inclusion and, wanting to feel like they're part of the community. And so the students were really honest. Of course, some kids said less work, more vacations, more time off. But when you kind of parse through that, there is some legitimate feedback for us to get our arms around. So that's all there for your consumption. And then again, just as you look at the middle of year, all that data and evidence is still linked. So again, as we build out the final evaluation, it's a compilation of all of this work, not just the middle to the end. Are there any questions on this particular?
So I'll just update here. That means we have a lot of reading to do in the next week or so. A lot of clicking, and you'll make sure we have access.
Yeah,
There's only the top three right now.
Hopefully you can get into them. The next goal, and this actually should be, Wendy actually caught this, which I'm glad she did, so I know you had training with her earlier. This should be a professional practice goal. So this part I mislabeled it's not a district improvement goal. So just FYI, that should be a professional practice goal. But the focus here is really about team building. And so from the leadership team perspective, I think we have done a really good job of cultivating a strong district leadership team. But the focus of this was to go beyond that and to really look at how do we build this out into the classroom level for all levels of our organization. And so here we talk about the measurement pieces being professional development opportunities, new optional PD modules, looking at a new mentoring program and refining that program, which is linked here. Hopefully we can open it. Implementing our new Unit C evaluation system. This has been actually a pleasant surprise. You might remember through our Unit C negotiations, we revised our evaluation system quite significantly, where our Unit C staff, which are our kitchen staff, our paraprofessionals, our custodians, all the support staff, they now meet with their supervisor multiple times through the year. They set goals in the beginning of the year. There's observations with feedback on a rubric. They have a mid-year check-in with a write-up and a summary and feedback, and there's and again, observations and then an end-of-year evaluation. So they're getting constant feedback, which is great, because for a long time they felt like they were kind of on an island, and they only heard from their supervisor if there was a problem, and then at the end of the year evaluation. That has changed. So we're really pleased with the progress there. For evidence, we have revised our mentoring program. And Tim, can you try to click that? I'm not sure it will open. Did it open, Erin, on yours? Because I would like to share how we're doing this, because not only are we looking at, oh good, all right. Yeah. So not only are we looking at how to modify in district what this looks like, but we're also looking at strengthening our partnerships across other districts and to partner with us in that. So we've redefined the goal for our mentoring program. And the idea isn't just onboarding and getting people through their first, couple of years. It's really about retention. We've seen across education as a whole, people are leaving our field, and for various reasons, they're not coming back. And so it's really important that we retain the teachers and staff that we need to retain. And so we've really looked at how do we, kind of reset the goal of this work around, you'll notice here, overall job satisfaction, effectiveness in the classroom, a supportive mentoring relationship, right? This idea of higher retention. So we have an overview at the beginning. If you could pause right there, Tim, that'd be great. We have an overview at the beginning of what the mentors, so these are the individuals that are working with our new staff, but actually what their structure will look like. So we've spent quite a bit of time really thinking through how do we retrain our mentors and breathe new life into them, right? Because your mentors tend to be the same people year after year, and they're like, same old same. I got a new English teacher this year. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do the same thing I always do, kind of thing. We want to rebrand that. We want to redo that. And so we have some new pieces as far as training and support for our mentors that we're going to be doing. Our first year, our new mentees, one of the things you might recall we added a couple of years ago was a tour of the community, so that they actually can see the neighborhoods and the towns where our children live and families live. We've had really good feedback about that, so we'll be maintaining that as part of our new staff orientation. But a really important piece that we piloted this year and we got incredible feedback around were the optional PD modules. And so we ran professional development around educator evaluation. Actually, myself and Jenny delivered that. We ran PD, Jill ran professional development with her team on special education. We did professional development on English language learners. And we offered multiple sessions. at both levels at various times. We got really good feedback, not just from the mentees, like the new staff, but from our veteran staff. We had more veteran staff in some of our trainings than new staff, which was great because it was optional. They didn't have to do it. And so we are going to be deepening that. If you want to scroll down, Tim, through the year one mentee overview, and you can pause here. So we're going to actually be deepening that this year, this upcoming year, and we're going to be looking at things around topics like relationship building, and really helping our new staff, because it's hard when you're just kind of out of the package and you're fresh out of college and you think you're going to save the world, and then you have 25 8-year-olds looking at you and you're like, oh God, what did I get myself into? It's like we're going to work with them really around that relationship building, getting to know the students, getting to know your families, plugging your families into the work, and how do we communicate effectively with them, with our families, looking at things like classroom management at a much deeper level. And so we're really excited about that. The other two pieces to just highlight here is our relationship with the local staff development group. And so these are all of the towns in the school districts that we actually work with. So we're going to be doing shared professional development with these different communities. And one of the things that's really helped, particularly we hear from like our technology, our music, our arts people, like, oh, there's really nothing for me, which is not entirely true. But as far as the content goes, giving them the opportunities to continue, joint professional development with other communities. So we're really excited about that. The other piece that we're adding is the observation of their colleagues. And that's a really important piece. The schools have done a lot of work around joint learning walks. So getting teachers out of their classroom and getting them into other classrooms so they can see other teachers in action with looking through a particular lens. Tim, you can scroll through. The year 2 and year 3 piece that I want to highlight is through you can pause there, through our partnership with Bellingham and our work with Uxbridge, we actually are going to have workshops for our 2nd and 3rd year teachers that are cross-district. So we're getting our teachers out of BMR and we're getting them out into other districts, and we're getting other teachers into our district to do some of this collaborative work. You'll see some of this highlighted later with our leadership team, but again, the goal here is to push that out into the classrooms so that our teachers actually will have a network of colleagues in our surrounding towns where they can partner. And then additionally, we have a strong support network, and with our building coaches, our lead coach, our team leaders, our content lead teachers, the instructional leadership teams, and then of course all of the school embedded professional development. So a ton of work done in this space to help support the progress and growth and retention of our staff. Tim, you can close out of that.
And I see that, and though the goal is closing, obviously there's continuous work here.
Oh, yes, yeah. The focus for us here was to really revise the mentoring program to make sure that we're doing this deeper. The social studies curriculum work you're aware of, but I just wanted to highlight, and what I actually attached there, and you don't need to open it, Tim, but it really was just an overview, and this was to show the investment the school committee has made in our instructional coaches. They do most of the PD now on their own. So Jeff Curran actually, and Carol Conti, who's not instructional coach, but was very involved in the social studies curriculum committee, they went and trained our elementary teachers on the new social studies curriculum. Like, that's where we've been trying to get to. And we said this a few years ago when we set the vision for our instructional coaches that they would be the ones to do this work, and we're seeing it now. The teachers actually opt for that. They want, Jeff and Mary and, Jill and Liz, those are our coaches. They want them delivering this PD to them. They're comfortable, they know the work, they know the context. So it's just really great to see that one of our coaches can shoot out an email to an elementary staff. Jeff's not even their coach. And he rotated through their PLCs to deliver the social studies curriculum PD, which was just awesome. So there's a piece of evidence there. I wanted to highlight two important pieces as far as partnerships go. We've done a lot of work with Hudson Public Schools. They're also a focus schools district. So that's our work we do with Cary. And so we did 3 different levels of work with Hudson this year. We focused on the principal leadership level, we focused on the assistant principal level, and we focused on the coach level. So we had a time where we hosted Hudson here. Actually, we did at the high school. We're in the work, so it's hard to get our arms around it sometimes, but our high school is light years beyond where most high schools are in our area as far as the instructional leadership and instructional improvement work. We'll see some of that in the data later. And so the work that instructional leadership team has done under Jill's leadership in the past 2 years has been quite incredible. So we hosted them here. We also hosted Bellingham at the complex. The work that Jenny and her team has done there is second to none. And they had an opportunity to observe our instructional leadership team, observe instruction in the classroom, and our student instructional leadership team, which is really awesome. And so we've done a lot of partnership work through Focus Schools. The piece that we're starting in August is a professional learning community between Hopedale, Bellingham, and BMR. And that is specifically for our principals. And that work is anchored in instructional leadership. So giving teachers feedback, looking at data to improve student outcomes. And we sent a survey, and that's what's linked here. You'll see the survey that we sent out to the principals to tell us, out of these, whatever it was, 7 or 8 areas, what are the 2 or 3 you want to focus on? And so we are setting up the first day of our Leadership Institute with just the principals. We are meeting in, oh goodness, what is that? The Wayland Center? I'm not saying it right. It's in Ashland? Somebody help me. No? It's like a conference center that we are going to be meeting to really launch this work in August. And then lastly, the staff surveys and the staff feedback. So that's all linked here as well. Any questions on this particular goal? And you may have them as you start going through all the evidence. The facilities work is really straightforward. The school committee did a bunch of work on this tonight, frankly, as far as moving the project forward. We are way ahead of schedule. The work that we needed to have done by August 31st is essentially done. And so we're in a really good place with that. As far as the MSBA side is concerned, the financial impact of the school consolidation work, I didn't link that here because Denise is going to go over that in a few minutes. So you have that in your packet. And then we are still continuing the small capital projects work. So we just attached the list that the school committee approved for us to move forward with. And Scott has an update for us on that tonight in his facilities update.
Can you just go? Wait,
Sorry,
maybe you were there. Is it backwards to the long range? So just, I want to point out on the bottom where it says, this will be measured by the successful completion of reorganization model and timeline. I just want to point it out because we talked about it earlier tonight in our workshop, that it gives you a goal and how we agreed that it would be measured when we approved his goals back in October.
Yep. Yeah, under each one of these is you'll see the bolded, see that it's here, this will be measured by.
The measurement. And the evidence you're submitting to us right now should support that.
Right. That should be linked.
I just
right
wanted
there.
to point it out because it was clear on this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, you to interrupt your phone.
No, it's fine. Are we okay to move to the next?
Yes, thank you.
The next goal is around the learning acceleration. And this is really focused around helping our kids learn better. I mean, that's kind of the short version of this. And the biggest data point for us to really look at is, of course, like their outcomes and look at the STAR data, which we'll move through in just a moment. But there are a few other pieces that I want to highlight here of evidence. The first is the student instructional leadership team. I actually attached some of the agendas so you can see what the kids are doing. If you attend one of their meetings, they're looking at student writing samples against a rubric and giving feedback on the student work. It's incredible. And so I wanted you to get a sense. They're also doing case studies, and they recently had a meeting with the elementary PTO to talk about some concerns the kids have around fundraising and what's promoted, and how kids that fundraise a certain amount are really celebrated. And some kids had concerns because, they couldn't fundraise as much as they wanted to because their older sibling did, right? So they're like, how do we deal with that? One student had shared with us, I can't fundraise, I'm babysitting my younger sibling, my mom's at work. So how am I supposed to get out and knock on doors and collect money? And I'm not allowed to do that anyways. So it was a really incredible conference. This came from the kids, that they wanted to talk to the PTO leadership about. And so I just was really impressed at the level of leadership that the students are showing with a pretty complex issue that I think a lot of adults would kind of wrestle with, like how do we kind of solve that? They're the group that actually, if you attended the awards night, where I had asked kids to stand for various things, and if you notice, everybody was standing at the end, that came from this student ILT. I presented that problem to them. I said, I have to address 100 kids and their families, but only 30 are being recognized. And so they helped me come up with a list. That list came from the kids, the elementary students. So she said, they're like, well, why don't you ask about this? Why don't you ask about this? Why don't you ask about this? So I just was taking notes. So that's where that came from. The other piece I think that's important to mention is the special education data meetings. We hold those in addition to our regular data meetings with the schools. And we hold them as in between the beginning and middle and end. So we actually have 6 meetings a year just looking at special education progress. It doesn't always show on our STAR data because the student population changes all year. Kids come in and out of special ed as they're supposed to. Some kids don't. Some kids stay, but some kids come in and out. And then the last piece that I wanted to highlight on this before we look at the STAR data is the end of year district-wide data meetings. We held those together this year as one giant district ILT, and the schools presented to each other. So the high school presented to all the other schools. They had a member of their ILT there, they had a coach, and they had their principal. And in the complexes situation, they actually, there's a photo in here you'll see, a student actually led that, a 5th grader, Cadence, led the ILT presentation, which was like mind-blowing. And she had her note cards and she walked right through the data and she talked about the progress and the gaps. It was really amazing. And so this is the level that I want people to understand, like this is where the work is. This is incredible. This took us years to get to. When I started this work with the leadership team, we had people fighting us on just STAR. I'm not taking that. You can't make me take this. We're not doing that. Now we have kids presenting their data and talking about the progress that they've made. So it's quite remarkable. And in the fact that it's being presented together, they own it. The schools own it. Today we had a leadership team meeting, and our assistant principals were presenting on tools and strategies for discipline. They led it. I didn't even see the slide deck until they presented it this morning to everybody. None of us did. They put it together and presented it to the leadership team and talked about and they said it's all about relationship building. We have got to build better relationships with our kids and families and help them build better relationships with each other. And this came from our disciplinarians, right? These are the two that tend to, focus more so on the discipline side of things. And so it was a really powerful training. And one of the pieces that they mentioned was the vertical alignment, that we all have to own this. We all have to come at it from the same perspective. That never would have happened a few years ago. So a big shout out to them. So you'll see that evidence linked. And then lastly, our student learning goal. And I want to highlight, because I try to do something different so this piece is always a little confusing because the school committee evaluates me on this goal as it relates to MCAS, not STAR. But we don't have MCAS until the fall. So we always use the STAR data to show an indicator, although my evaluation cycle isn't done until the fall. And that was at my request. That was because I think you should be evaluating me on our kids' ability to learn. That's my main job, is to keep them safe and to keep them learning. That was actually worked into my contract, that cycle. But we use this because it's an indicator. And so what you'll see here isn't meant for you to evaluate on, because I don't know what those MCAS scores are going to look like. But the STAR scores, if it was measured on the same target, which is a 5% increase, you can see in ELA that we far exceeded that in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. The middle school, we did not. I'm going to talk about the middle school in a minute. Ninth grade and 10th grade. And you can see the numbers of students meeting and exceeding expectations. Is that where we want to be? No. But we set the target of increasing that by 5%. Will MCAS look like that? I think some grades will probably look higher than that. Some may not. Some might be lower. So that is all still to be determined, but this is an indicator, and this will show you the progress, at least on STAR, which is one academic measurement that's being made. But you can see some really nice growth over the year in most grades. And again, I'm going to talk about the middle school at the end, because we have already put in place a set of actions that the middle school team is working on to address some of these issues. In mathematics, you can see, again, if this was the target, right, then we would have met it in second, third, fifth, seventh, ninth, and 10th grade. You can see double-digit increases in most grade levels. Fourth grade, we were close. We increased by 4%. But again, we have 62% of our kids at grade level. Not where we want to be. We're pushing for 80%. We want at least 80% of our kids there. But it's progress. And again, every year we reset because we have a new crop of students at each grade level. But you can see the growth that they made as far as achievement. Eighth grade, I'm not sure why it says -2, 27 to 47. That's not correct. So I'll fix that. But you can see the progress being made in most cases, not in all cases. These are the not meeting results. We obviously want to see these go backwards. So you can see in second grade, when our second graders started, 30% of students were not meeting grade level expectations. They're now at 17%. So not perfect, but we reduced the number of students by 13 percentage points. Those are real kids. Again, third grade decreased by 6, fourth grade by 6. Fifth grade was flat, and sixth grade was flat, so they're about 9 and 8% respectively. Seventh grade went up a couple of points. Eighth grade went up a couple of points. Ninth grade, we saw a huge reduction from 36% of kids not at grade level to 13% not at grade level. Again, that's not great, but that's a huge reduction. And again, it's about 100 kids in a class at the high school, so that's about 23 students that move. That's a whole section of students. And then 10th grade went from 13 to 7%. That's ELA. And mathematics tells a similar story. You can see the reduction in the numbers of students not meeting across all grade spans. Something I want to highlight, 10th grade has no students not meeting grade level expectations. 0. That's where we ultimately, of course, we want to be. So this will give you a sense of where we looked in mathematics. And that this is achievement. Now we're going to look at growth. So the target is 50. This speaks for itself. The target is 50. And this is STAR is a national exam. So we're compared to every other second grader in the country that takes this exam. Our second graders outgrew 75% of their peers nationwide. So BMR is moving, at least on this measure. Again, look at grade 3, 68, grade 4, 65. Fifth grade just missed the target by 5 points. Sixth grade met it. Seventh and eighth grade did not. Ninth and 10th grade met it. Math, again, tells a similar story. Not as high in some cases, but you can see 60, and again, as a percentile, you want to be in the 50th percentile. Second grade was at 60, third grade 66, fourth grade 63, fifth grade 57. Sixth grade just missed it, seventh grade met it, 8th grade just missed it. 3rd grade did not. 9th grade was very far off, but the 10th grade met the target of 50. And that was from the fall to the spring. Then we segue into special education. And Jill looked at the numbers for us and updated those to make sure that we had the right numbers as we looked at the STAR data. Remember, because that data changes based on the enrollment. So we included this so you could see what the actual student enrollment numbers are. And then the data here, and there's a lot of numbers on one page, so I'm not going to walk through all of this. I think when we think about special education, the achievement numbers are really important, but I actually want to skip ahead to the growth. Because I think for our students with special needs, this is where the bulk of the story is. And you can see, again, the target is 50, and our students with special needs, with the exception of 7th and 8th grade, all met or exceeded the target quite significantly. Look at the high school. This is ELA. So 57 and 69, 69th percentile. That means that our high school, our 10th graders, our students with special needs outgrew 69% of their special education peers nationwide that takes the STAR exam. That's a huge amount of progress. And you can see it in other grade levels as well. Math was interesting because it actually showed, to me, something that is very easily identifiable, and that's the early numeracy skills. That's understanding place value and understanding the role and value of a number. That's at the fundamental levels, that's what's being taught. But if you look at 4th grade through 10th grade, look at the growth rates of our students with special needs. The data speaks for itself in terms of how the students are progressing. The 10th grade was at 84. So a lot of progress as far as student growth is. And again, this you won't be able to measure until we get our MCAS results, but this is a good indicator of how we're doing there. Are there any questions on the data, on the evidence? I know there's a ton of information here. As you start working through all of that, you can certainly reach out if you have any follow-up that you're looking for.
It's definitely a lot of information. You'll fix the links that aren't opening.
Yeah.
If anyone has a link that doesn't open, just obviously shoot Jason an email and then he can fix it. Or Stephanie can probably fix it. I just noticed it on
It
two
probably
slides.
doesn't work because I was trying to learn how to do this myself. So I probably didn't link those correctly, but I will figure it out. Okay.
So I know it's a lot. It's also a lot for Jason to put it together for us, so it's definitely our job to give it its due diligence and time. I will, you're going to need time to absorb all of this anyway, but I will try to have the form, I send it in a Google form to you by the weekend, and you can take your time with it. I would definitely recommend doing it in the next week or so it's fresh in your mind from his presentation to us and our workshop tonight. If anyone has any questions, I know Wendy just said she was available. I'm available. Jason is definitely available for goal or evidence information. And I think it would be fair to say, let's get this done, and so we can present back to Jason in our next public meeting, which is July 10th. So that gives us time to get it done, and back to him. The student goal will be left open for the MCAS to come back. But we certainly appreciate you stay focused on these. Everything matches up from the middle of year to end of year, so it's nice to see the work moving forward and how it interlocks with your team. So, thank you for the efforts put into that. Thank you.
Sure. Moving on to the,
Moving on to report of the business office.
all right, so we are nearing the end of FY '23. I don't know if Denise feels that way. If you want to give an update, Denise?
Sure. We've been working on closing out requisite POs and getting everything kind of imbalanced and getting prepared for our year-end rollover. These expenditures reflect that. We will be recertifying revenue at our next meeting. We'll be reviewing that as a year-end closing function that we have to do. But this is our expenses as they do sit, and you can see the bottom line. It's a little bit higher than we were expecting it to be, but we still have a few things that haven't hit.
So the 414,000 is what you're talking about?
Yes.
Which I just motioned for 10,000 tonight.
Yes, you
so-
just did. That brings us down to 404.
Did our technology come in yet? No. So,
That will be on top of this.
but if it doesn't come in before June 30th, is it next year?
It will be next year, and I've already spoken to the auditor about that. It has to be next year, and I can't report it this year.
That's,
until.
and that's better for us,
Yes.
right? Okay. So just making sure everyone understands what they're looking at here, and that, when she said bottom line.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. We have some new people here. If you look at our things, on the second page, the type of expense 05 line indicates our expenses for the year. And if you go all the way over to the right-hand side, that takes into consideration encumbrances. Encumbrances are planned expenses that are on the books right now. And we've worked really hard to clean those encumbrances up, which is why we have a little bit more money than we were expecting to have, because we released some money from encumbrances that didn't end up coming through, or they came in less than they were supposed to be, or they were just put on the books and they weren't necessarily spent. So that cleanup effort yielded the 414.
Denise, so the rave that we approved tonight, will that come out of that 414?
Yes.
The full 3 year?
Yes, yes, I will get that purchased tomorrow. And it'll be on the last warrant, which will be on the 10th.
And then on the 10th, Denise, will we have a better forecast of what?
Yes.
Okay.
We will have a better forecast. We'll know more exacts, because I'll know exactly what's rolled over for POs, because I'll be rolling those over on that day. And we're just also trying to work on our cash and our revenues, making sure we received everything, and looking at our receivables, as in that technology money, it's not actually going to be reflected as a receivable. So it'll be all cleaned up, and I'll report exact. Any questions? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the personnel update.
And I have an update on our update.
Oh, an update on our update.
We set well, let me just explain this first, because it looks different than our usual. And I know Denise is working with Monique on there'll be a large update on July 10th that actually it's in the format that you're used to seeing it in. But I know at the school committee workshop, the committee requested an update on the vacancies. So what is in front of you was from the 20th. This has already changed because we've already filled quite a few of these. So I'm going to run down, if that's okay, Denise,
Yep.
with you?
Yes.
Where we are with these positions. So we'll start with Millville. They are still actively interviewing that position for the special education teacher. So that one is still what it states on your sheet. If you go down to the middle school, we have a finalist for English. We have a finalist for science. I have an interview tomorrow for the technology teacher. The only two positions we still have at the middle school are the paraprofessional and the self-contained special ed. If you move over to the JFK AFM complex, we've hired the grade 5 special education teacher, and I'm interviewing tomorrow the sub-separate teacher. So potentially by tomorrow, they're fully staffed. And for the high school, I have made an offer to the self-contained special education teacher. We are waiting to hear back, and I have hired the digital arts teacher. We had a finalist for math, and she withdrew. we made an offer, but it wasn't as competitive as, she has about 15 years experience. So our highest is not the highest of others. So unfortunately, we lost out by about 5,500. So there was no way I could close that gap with our pay scale.
I think the only two that are newer is we do have an SLPA that we're looking to, that has been posted.
So we added an SLPA, yep.
Well, not added, but we had someone who left.
Yes,
So
yep.
we're looking for that. And then we hopefully have a finalist coming your way for our ESL teacher.
Perfect. So we should have ESL, we have a finalist. This is the problem with these documents, is staffing is always changing.
There's also the music.
Did that get on here yet? No, that did not get on here. No, and we have a music. It's in 2. That's probably how it got missed. It's a shared position. We have a music vacancy, music teacher vacancy. So back to the high school, we are re-interviewing for the math position. We're accepting resumes for the tech. We have a paraprofessional opening, and then we're waiting to hear back from the special ed. And then we added the SLPA, the ESL. We have a finalist for, it sounds like, and then the music teacher vacancy. And this will probably all change again by the next time we meet.
However, exactly. Thank you for that update, though. It was something that was asked for at our workshop, so. And then the building reconfiguration financial.
Yes. We're almost there, everybody.
So in your packets is the PowerPoint presentation that supports this. And for the viewers at home, it's on the screen. Blueprint. So our district improvement plan, it shows, I'll flip this so I can actually read some of it. Some urgent things that have been happening in the district for us to reevaluate what we have within our building infrastructures and what kind of costs and savings we could have if we were forced to make some decisions that we didn't necessarily want to make, and for the benefit of the children. So, and additionally, we would be going through this process within the MSBA. Being within the pipeline process does indicate that we would be doing the same kind of thing with the house. So we're kind of getting ahead of the game and looking at all of our options. And the whys, of course, the 2-year capital planning conversations that have been happening. The facilities goals that for 23-24 is to get a good understanding of what we do have. And then the discussion that happened on the June 8th meeting, it kind of prompted us to be thinking and getting something prepared so we can answer your questions. And then the right-sized district to support the levels of teaching that are necessary to meet all of our goals. And ultimately, the goal is student learning. So that's what we're looking. The district was built for 3,040 students. We currently have 1,502 with 17 enrolled in special education programs outside the district. An important fact, the regional agreement outlines that a public hearing and a school committee decision prior to January 1st is necessary for us to make any grade configurations. So we started looking at this point in time just so we can be prepared for those conversations. Our major considerations that have kind of come up and been kind of pointing at us out a little bit here is the water system at MES. It's kind of an unknown. So it's kind of an immediate concern. Well, not kind of, it is an immediate concern. And then the other thing that we have to consider is most of our buildings are at half capacity in 2024. MES currently has 368 students. It was built for 495. The complex has 355 students, and it was built for 795 students. The central office, being within that building infrastructure, it brings down the capacity to 570 because of the space that we do utilize. The middle school is built for has 383 students, and it's built for 840 students. And the high school has 402, and it is built for 900 students. We need to continue approaching grades 6 and 7 differently, kind of coming up and thinking about that. And then grade 8 is already integrated into the high school community with some of the coursework that it's been doing in space usage. So let's look at our first scenario. This would be taking MES offline, and we would be moving the district from 4 buildings down to 3, completely taking that offline. We would then put the lower grades, 3 to 5 and 6 to 7, up into the Hartnett Middle School, and we would, and we would then move the high school to be grades 8 to 12. We would then go to the complex, and that would become the pre-K to 2. The student numbers, and I didn't read them out loud, I apologize. For the middle school would be up to 583 students. The high school would go to 551, and the complex would go to 368. The cost savings associated with that scenario. Building utilities are built in, are at $99,000. That would be the propane heat, the electric, and the trash. The food services is built in at the kitchen manager and the 2 staff at $54,000. And then we have our staff of the maintenance being a head custodian, 2 custodians, and then an administrative assistant within the front office, and that would be a $191,859 cost. The total savings for taking this building offline is $345,360. Now, it's important to note that this does not reflect any administrative changes that would have to happen within the building infrastructure. And then also it doesn't take into consideration winterization. We take a school offline, we just can't leave the building to deteriorate. We have to winterize, and there are certain things that we would have to do. And we would be working with the towns in order to do something of that nature. Next scenario would be taking the complex JFK AFM offline. And this would be the same scenario, going from 4 buildings down to 3. This would have MES, Millville, with the same situation that it is right now, the pre-K to 2. We would have the same amount of students there, 368. And we would be going to middle school, we would have lower grades of 3 to 5, and we would have an upper school grade of 6 to 7, and the same as the last scenario, and that would be 583 students. The high school would then reflect that same 8 to 12, and they would have 551 students, and then the complex would be offline. This scenario of taking the complex offline reflects some savings and costs. The building utility between the propane, the electric, and the trash would be $102,241 savings. The food services would reflect the kitchen manager, 2 staff, being a $64,007 savings. And the staff, it would be the head custodian, 2.25 custodians, and then an admin assistant, being for a savings of $202,432. The total savings would be $368,000. Oh my gosh, I have an extra dollar amount in there. I apologize. 680. Let me just play with my numbers. 83. So there's an extra 8 in there, 603. And again, it's important to note that this does not reflect any administrative costs that would be changed. And then winterizations, again, are not accounted for. We would be working this out with the town of Blackstone. Things that would still need to be developed that this plan does not even take into consideration would be local community, staff, and family conversations that would have to take place. Building layouts and class assignments, class sizes, those haven't been taken into consideration. The square footprint indicates we can support these, but we haven't gone through any kind of designs to think about how that would be laid out. Transportation and school times, if those would be impacted and have to change. The staffing needs, food services are built into it, but health services is not, and then the leadership and administration of the building is not considered also. And then reviewing and reassigning staff that would be necessary in order to facilitate something like this. And then, of course, developing on some budgets And then sharing updates, feedback, and final proposals with the school committee. And then public hearing and school committee decision. So those were things that would have to still be developed along the way. Just a starting point.
Thank you for doing that. I don't know if everyone recalls, but we were at a point last December where we were actually posted for a public hearing because we needed to meet a December 30th deadline or December 31st for a public hearing based on our regional agreement. And we pulled the plug on that. But it was asked of us many times and the financial impact, and we've never done this before. We've never looked at this as a financial move. So Denise, I thank you for your time in putting this together because we've never had the information in our hands. I do have one question.
Yes.
Why is, and you can get back to me. But why is our trash in Millville $9,200 and it's only $4,800 at the complex? And I just it's not a town service, so I'm curious why. And you can get back to me.
I will
It's
definitely
double.
get back to you. It is double the
That's
cost.
double.
I'm gonna,
we have a we
Because we pay in
We
Millville, people are
approve-
probably dumping their trash.
no, but the school has we contract our trash throughout the district. It's not a town service. We have dumpsters.
No, it's right. Yeah, no, we
have a
do
It's
pay.
been a while, but I remember approving it. We had it out to bid and, just curious, like why that would be double in a.
These are historic numbers. These
Yeah.
are not necessarily reflective of this specific year. This is from last year because
can't
this year hadn't
possibly-
closed in order to pull a full year's worth of expenditures.
They can't possibly be producing more trash with less capacity.
The little ones are messy.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
This
Lot of
jumped
straw
off the
wrappers.
page.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
I will.
Any other questions for Denise on this? This is something we asked for. Obviously, we started talking about it last winter, and things were very busy in the winter. We didn't have Denise, and it is something that we asked Jason to make sure we could get to. So, comments, questions?
Well, is there maybe this is a little too far down the road, but at what level do the bathroom facilities have to change in size? What grade is that?
Pre-KK.
Pre-K and K?
Yeah.
And then it's standard for the rest?
Yep,
So high
'cause they have to-
school facilities are the same as JFK facilities?
For all but pre-K and K, the little ones need to have the little toilets.
Okay.
The complex originally housed kindergarten, so they
Right.
do have.
Correct.
how
Yeah,
many
they do,
toilets
yeah,
are.
well, I'm thinking up in
Yeah.
the first grade, well, I don't know what's up there anymore, so.
Two other items two other pieces that aren't on here that would affect our towns, honestly, taking a building offline, they both have MSBA obligations
Yes.
to them. So that, I know that's not something we want to do to either one of them. The MSBA grants are good for as long as it's being used as a school building. We have windows,
And a
roof,
boilers
and boilers
on JFK,
at JFK.
indoors.
And we have brand new boilers in Millville, and we converted to gas. So
In our conversation with MSBA during the process of being approved and accepted into their visa, like the eligibility period, there was discussions around if we needed to consolidate and if a feasibility study shows that that's something we need to do or something we need to do anyhow, that there's an opportunity to negotiate what that clawback is what it's called would be in the new project.
in the new project.
In the new project.
So
That's assuming
something-
that,
correct.
that happens.
So 5 years down the road, when we're getting a 59% reimbursement, that might, and nobody might end up paying that money out of their pocket. The reimbursement might be a little less.
It could be put
That would be
into-
very different than closing a building and not entering into a project.
We would
That
still be-
offer may not be
But still-
extended.
We'd still be paying it back.
The town?
Yes. Yeah, they would roll it into
Put it
a
into-
project, so the district would have to be cautious to assess the towns properly.
Yeah, correctly.
Because the roll-in would be maybe a mix of both Millville and Blackstone projects together, but they would just roll that into the, and that's your point to MSBA is what I had wrote
Oh,
in
you
my
did
notes
too?
here, and let me ask this, if we needed to, like this year coming, the district can still, I should ask, can the district still like discontinue, take a building offline temporarily?
Yes, and not turn it back.
stays in the district, so that the obligation doesn't fall, so they meet the requirements of the MSBA during that period of time when a new building is being built, for example.
If we, if we close, let's look at two different scenarios, because that's a great question, Dan. If we closed one of the elementary schools temporarily, because there was a mold issue, a water issue, the roof collapsed, whatever the issue is, right? Yeah, so if there was an issue there, we don't have to turn that building back over to the town. So because it's still district managed, we'll say it's not district
Leased.
owned,
Yeah,
district
leased.
leased. And we're working towards a solution to whatever the issue is, then correct.
Well,
We wouldn't have
keywords
to-
they're working towards.
Yep, that's right.
Working towards it being
resolution
used to the capacity it's supposed to be used.
Correct.
Not because there's a financial impact to us if we do that, where we are winterizing a building and keeping things on, and that is still in our budget. So as long as the progress is being made to, in good faith, to fix any issues, then it would
right.
still be considered a school building.
Unless the district decided to exit the lease. And then that point, it's the town building, and then we hit those issues.
So do we
Of
happen
the
to
MSBA.
know, or maybe Denise, it's something you can get back to us, the MSBA numbers for MES in the complex? You can get back to us if you want to send it in a weekly update. Okay. Because they are the complex has separate projects, so
probably know
I'm
them.
sure it's not a number you know off the top of your.
The complex, I'm not aware of all of them, but the boilers is.
The roof, the
Yeah,
boilers,
you
the
can,
windows.
Jason can
Yep.
include it, just so we're all on the same page on
Yep.
what each building's financial impact, I mean, so here's the savings, but here's the financial impact to others if we made a move that.
Yeah, we're
that
happy to do that.
capacity.
The boilers at MES are about 800,000.
The 800 for that.
And just as a clarification, I think
Pull
in
up the
our
other numbers.
workshop when this came about, this wasn't, I don't think the goal was to indicate that we're moving towards, shuttering a building in any near future. It was more, I think, if I recall, kind of like a FYI of, what does a scenario look like financially if we were to do this. So just so we're clarifying for those who might be, watching this or catching the meeting minutes and saying, "Oh, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah.
We're bringing this up again." I think this is it's a conversation that needs to be had, but not necessarily a move or a lurch
I
towards.
think we were much closer to it last December than we are right now having this conversation. It is just informational, really. I agree with that. Any other questions?
Great.
Thank you so much.
That concludes the the business office and facilities. update.
Now we're moving to facilities. Thank you, Scott. You're right on time.
I'll make it quick. Okay, so at the high school, Premier Seal Coating came out and started on the tennis courts. They filled in all the cracks. They put a black layer of sealant over the cracks, blended it in. They do need to come back and paint the courts green and do the lines. Again,
Wait a minute, they filled in the cracks or they resurfaced, weren't they resurfacing the entire court?
they're gonna resurface the entire court, but they had to fill in all the cracks first.
Okay.
And the owner, Ray, pointed out to me that part of the problem with the tennis courts cracking like that is all the water is sloping to the back right side corner if you're standing there looking at the tennis courts. And the ground is above the tennis courts, so the water has no place to run off. either on top of the surface as well as underneath the surface. So he suggests that we somehow excavate the ground, pull it back so that it's below asphalt layer, so that the water can flow out. So I spoke with Jason, and I can do that with the tractor that we have. I just gotta go in, backblade it, pull it back, and should solve the drainage problem.
But the whole reason they came back and did this under warranty was because of the pitting?
It was because cracks.
The pitting caused water crack?
No, the pitting had nothing to do with the cracks. Whatever they patched last year,
Okay.
he said the membrane that they used was defective. We were not the only tennis court that this happened to.
Cracks, not pitting.
Cracks.
Okay.
Yeah, the pitting had nothing to do with the cracks. Fittings was more of a blemish. So, again, he's gotta wait for the weather to cooperate, which is looking like the end of next week is starting to look good now. The AC unit in the upper learning center was installed and is up and running, keeping all the data equipment nice and cool now. It was actually freezing when I went in there and checked on it. It was like 62 degrees. Like, nah, we don't need it that cold. So we raised it up. The replacement glass for the auditorium has been ordered. I actually reached out to Franklin Glass this afternoon. The glass will be here either Friday or Monday. They will receive it, but they gotta schedule it. In the meantime, our asbestos consultant is sending out emergency response services to remove the caulking that is assumed to contain asbestos. So by DLS standards, we have to have that removed by professionals.
The caulking that was around the broken window?
Correct.
Okay.
And due to the size of that window, and the bookcase, the trophy case that's there in the heating unit, we now have to install it in two pieces. So there's gonna be a thin metal bar going across. I don't think it'll be that noticeable because you have the wood right there as well. It was either that or it was take the display case all apart and move it and move the 1,000 trophies in there. So we agreed on that. The new equipment for the food service line has arrived. That came in on Monday, June 19th. Craig Casavan came in and disconnected all the electricity to the units that's there now. They will be in on July 10th to start the installation of that. And then we'll have to get Craig Casavan back as well to rewire the heating coils for the food preparation. In your packets, you have a rough sketch of what the handicap parking will look like for the track. Brazza Construction came out 3 weeks ago. I also had Jimmy Sullivan, the Highway Department Superintendent, come out, and he agreed to this plan as well. So we are just waiting on the approval of the school committee to do this. Actually, Brazza Construction called me last week and said they were ready to go, and I said, well, we'll pump the brakes. Hasn't been approved yet. So as soon as we get this approved, I would imagine they'll come out at their earliest convenience.
You've approved the dollars, just not the plan. We want to make sure you're
Is
okay
it
with the
falling
design.
within the dollars?
Yeah, and we just wanted you to see the plan so you
Before we do it.
know what it looks like. There's already a gate up on the track in this area where the walkway is. The only thing we may have to do because of the banking is install a railing.
Is the walkway asphalt as well?
It will be asphalt, yeah. So, yeah, it'll all be handicap compliant.
And are all 5 spaces handicap? Are we going to put?
They are. That is gonna be a handicap parking area only. Brazza Construction is supplying the signs as well. I do have to ask them to put do not enter signs, on the right-hand side, so that it's just traffic flows in one
And I
direction.
feel like we're going to need a sign that says handicap parking only before someone even pulls in
The
there.
entranceway, yeah.
Because when someone pulls in and stays on the curb,
Well, all spots will have the handicap parking placard on the ground as well, the wheelchair
and,
and the sign.
okay. And will the gate always
So the
be
sign
unlocked?
might block the view if they want to park there looking at the,
Well, you have to have the sign to make it a legal handicap spot.
yeah, the placard
be.
on
The ground does not make it legal.
yeah.
It has to be.
So it has to be that
It has to be.
6 foot high.
Like the post.
It
Yeah.
has to be 6 foot.
Oh, you're right.
I mean,
Put 'em
I
off to
guess
the
we can
side
make
maybe
it,
somehow.
Well, if it's in their car, I mean, they can.
It's not right in the
The
middle.
whole point is to be able to walk to the track without going up the hill.
So my mother is handicapped
It would stay in
and
the car.
she parks over there and sits in the car and watches. I'm just, that's just my 2 cents.
well, if we put the signs up high enough so that it's not at windshield level,
There may be another way of posting those sign placards.
we can certainly look into that.
They're only enforceable if there's a sign, but I don't, maybe it's a different height. I don't know. I just think it's important to make it, so is the gate going to be open all the time? Is it going to be a
There's a
open and closed
padlock on
gate?
it now.
There's a padlock? So are we only going to have it open for our events, or is this going to be if someone wants to park and walk the track? Or, like, so what kind of access are we leaving open up there? Just,
I think it should not have a padlock on it.
That's gonna be
Like
unlocked.
if it's accessible for handicap, like a wheelchair's allowed on the track, or
Yes.
right?
Well, originally,
They may
If
go
it goes
down
the other
there.
way, you can't. It's narrow. Unless
well,
the
and they
gate's
did that
open.
because there's no bikes allowed.
Right.
So now you're opening up a gate that lets anything with wheels in, wagons or, and it was done to preserve the track surface, not the,
so no bicycles, baby carriages.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe put a sign up just to let people know.
It's unlocked at the other end, 24
Yeah,
hours.
It's a narrow opening,
But
so you
there's
can't get.
you couldn't get a wheelchair in.
Gotcha.
The other side is about this wide.
Can we make a wheelchair accessible, permanently open fence opening like we have for the other side, but make it wheelchair accessible? Is that a possibility?
I think it's, maybe
Gonna
we should
have
ask
to.
our SRO, because now you're opening it up to people on that side that aren't necessarily coming into the school, but.
Just
Maybe
keep
we
in
need
mind, if
other
it's wheelchair
opinions.
accessible, that means that, a bike can still get in there. Through that
Yeah,
same,
there are groups that come to the track, I see them come to the track, not on wheelchairs, but other handicap.
That's just a normal size gate up there, right? It's not narrow. It's a full size.
it's a full size.
It's an access gate, right?
Or can we
Handicap
reconfigure
wide.
that? Well, so my point is, like, when there is an event, we open the gates at the top of the ramp.
Yeah.
So is this something that would be opened in that capacity for an event? Or is it something that's going to be open full-time?
I guess that would be for
I
the
think it's
school
something that
committee to
needs to
decide.
If we're gonna make the track handicap accessible,
Then it needs
it
to
has
be.
to
be
be
open.
handicapped accessible,
And
not
we-
just for events, but if someone wants to use the track or anything.
Well, you just need to put a sign, no
Hey, is there really a harm in having a
wagon wheels
wheelchair
and
on the
baby
track?
strollers, whatever else we
Now,
said.
there is a young lady who has actually competes in events.
That is true, yes, I saw her.
Yeah, it's really not the
Saw her
wheelchairs that are
over
a
at,
problem.
Douglas.
I think it's the access from that side of the road that it becomes a problem.
How big is the gate? Is it a gate that's big enough for a car to drive through?
No.
No, it's 3
It's
feet
not,
wide.
Okay.
On the
That's-
parking lot side,
It's
it's
on the
wide enough for
walkway,
a
too.
car to fit through.
When it's open,
Has to
but
be to
that's
get them
only
open.
open
That's
for
locked.
events.
Definitely
That is
railings.
padlocked.
Yeah, the other side's on, it's like a steep angle to go up that driveway to get in.
But I'm looking at the walkway here, which could be wide enough, and then I'm just saying, opening up a Pandora's box here with somebody who's gonna flick that gate
So there
open,
is
if it was
still-
large enough, that's why I'm asking.
Right, so there is still gonna be a ravine under the walkway. There's gonna be a cement pipe so the water can still flow through that ravine. So
And
you can't get,
how wide is the walkway is my
it'll be over 3 feet wide.
Okay,
What about, so
car
then there's
could not-
Like 5 feet.
motorcycles.
Car won't make it.
okay.
There are other types of vehicles that can,
So keep in mind, to get in the gate, you're gonna have to make a 90-degree turn.
Yeah.
You're not going straight onto the track, you're gonna go up the walkway and take a left to get onto the track. So a motorcycle,
Would have difficulty.
yeah, it'd be difficult.
Never say never, but let's just.
No,
assume
and I
that this
agree.
is not gonna
Get out
happen.
And if
now
we
you
put
wanted
like,
to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
No,
There's a
not,
will.
Yeah.
not the way that,
Well, if
You
they wanted to
can't
get on
even
the
do a
track,
baby
they'll get on the
stroller.
track through the parking lot,
You have to drive through the grass.
on a motorcycle?
right?
they wouldn't be able to get through the way they.
The entrance way to get on the track is literally probably this wide.
Right, but
People
you
were
can
super
easily-
angry about it.
Two people lift up the baby stroller.
Not get
put
a
it over
baby
the gate
stroller
if
through
You
it.
wanna do
Right.
it. You wanna ride the bike over it, you lift it up over the fence.
Bikes, strollers, yeah.
Again,
It's the
just
same with
post it
dogs on,
and-
on
And
school
what's wrong with
grounds.
having a baby stroller up there, though? I don't even know, like, I get it, the bike thing to preserve the
Do people ride,
surface of
like,
the
do
track.
wheelies on the track? I don't know.
I think it's more if they
I
skidded on
started
it.
it all when I was a student here. I was
Really?
on the track with my rollerblades and
Oh, and you,
that's
That's
when
your
they
fault.
installed it
Nice job,
It was all your
Mr. Dillon.
fault.
40 years ago.
I mean, they can get on our tennis courts if they really wanna.
Yeah, I've
Skateboards,
kicked bicycles off of the tennis courts and skateboarders and
Bicycle,
rollerbladers.
so maybe we just need some new signs on both sides
signs.
that,
Reminders and-
you know,
Yeah,
just for preserving the surface.
no bikes, rollerblades.
Nothing with wheels except for wheelchairs.
So we won't allow baby strollers either?
I don't know why that was the thing. I don't wanna
They
say
have
yes or
A lot
no.
of them have bicycles.
People want to walk, like that,
Yeah,
that
like
to
running
me,
strollers.
A new mother
they
wants
go
to-
there to do that because it's safe.
Mhm.
Is there something wrong? I don't know. How does anyone else feel about
I
that?
can see how that's detrimental to
Not the stroller wheels.
to the
yeah.
track. No.
I get skateboards, I get rollerblades, or anything more powerful, but
I remember when I first started, and it was the old track before they redid it, and there were two ladies who used to come walk in the wintertime, and they would shovel a path
They
all
would.
the way around that track. One of them was blind, the other one was like her.
this is why in our new building, we're going to have indoor walking.
We hope so.
Yes.
I just don't want
No
to
one has to
limit
shovel.
future students from using the track before they are
Yeah,
of age to enter the district, you know?
yeah, in their stroller,
That's right.
all.
So there'll be no bike
Chargers.
riding, no
Little charges.
skateboarding.
Little charger lane on the track. Just for the
We can
little
just put a couple strollers in the, and then they don't ever need to bring their own, they just use the ones
Yeah.
we leave there.
We'll have
We'll charge
We do have a
strollers.
bike path they
stroller
can use.
rental.
They'll have a little cart to rent one.
We'll have students like rickshaws, little babies around.
Perfect. So the in and out here, so that's just gonna be a big open parking lot. It's not gonna be like a,
No, there will be an island there.
Okay, all
Because
right.
there is a telephone pole close to the road
I see that.
where it won't affect it.
Okay, so there will be a grass island.
There'll be a
there
little
to-
grass strip.
So see what I'm saying, where other people are gonna park?
Other people can still park on the grass where they used to park.
Yeah, there's still gonna be plenty of room.
And it's gonna happen, football
Yeah,
games and
Yeah.
such.
Okay. Does everyone like this plan?
I like it. Yes.
The handicap parking signs, do they have to be one for every spot? Or
If
can we
you
put it
do-
like
if
with
you
a
want them to be
line?
legal, if we wanted to be able to like have a car towed, or if the police came by, it has to be, I think it's a 4 foot high handicap.
It's in writing.
Yeah, looking.
Yeah,
we can, let's say we can look that up
Yeah,
and
it's-
see what the regulations are.
It's definitely a reg
Sullivan
on
will have all that too
Yeah.
as well.
We can do that tomorrow, Scott.
Highway superintendent.
Not a problem. Moving on, so we are gonna get some loom delivered by Kimball Sand as soon as they process the loom. It's looking like the end of next week. We're gonna have 2 truckloads brought to the high school. One to repair where I made the ruts on the soccer field by bringing all the infield mix down to the girls softball field. And also there's various spots on the field, like where the football team practices and stuff that has ruts. And we're gonna fill those in. We're also gonna fill in up on the track area, the lower track area, where they do the discus and the shot put. Those cannonballs seem to leave some pretty good sized dents in, and when you're up there mowing, you're bouncing all over the place. And also, where they throw the javelin, the power line company came through and they made some ruts over there as well. So we're gonna fill all that in. I bought some grass seed today from Leeway, so, It's also gonna be a thin layer, so the grass that's there should grow up as well. This is just in case. So Millville Elementary School, as you know, we switched back to the well water effective June 16th. So that's up and running. The middle school, the building automation system has been put on the summer schedule, so lights are going off at 3:45 in the afternoon after everybody exits the buildings, as well as the heating and ventilation systems, which is basically just used to ventilate the building now. We are fortunate here that we can leave windows open on the second and third floor to also vent the building, so those units we usually shut off and we just keep the ones on the first floor on, to keep the air circulating, so knock on wood, no mold. Hasn't happened in the 20 years, so that's the way it's been working. Also, Industrial Burner has ordered the sections. I checked with them today. They're still waiting on the sections to come in, but it will be done prior to the start of school. And we're also getting a load of loom delivered here as well, because in the past we've had vehicles drive out on the field and tear it up, so it's also bumpy. To prevent that, we should also look into putting up some type of railing. We talked about that at the small capital planning meeting. It could be something as simple as a wooden railing or some bollards. The F-650 plow truck has been dropped off at Aerial Hydraulics, and they will be taking off the dump body and bolting the sander down permanently. So it'll be strictly for plowing and sanding and salting. And as Jason said, we're gonna continue with the small capital planning committee. Some of the projects that we looked at for this year that we've done already, such as the AC at the Upper Learning Center, the fields grading, truck repairs, and the handicap parking for the track. We'll continue to meet on a monthly basis to go over building needs, ground needs, immediate repairs that need to be done, plan for future projects such as this building's going up on 20 years old now, it's gonna need a new roof eventually, sooner rather than later. Plus, as Dan will attest, the 1,271 holes in the roof didn't help, that some shoveling roofing company put in them. Was not.
Wasn't me.
Dan's company, was prior to that, and the neighborhood was still here. Yeah. So yeah, we'll continue to meet and go over those projects. Another big project that's gonna come up here is the windows. As you can see, when you drive up the hill, all the windows are fogged over. That's from the seals failing, and that has been an issue from year 5. And I fought with in our windows, who installed the windows, and they pointed the finger at the architect, and the architect pointed the finger at the builder, and district attorney at the time did not want to fight that fight, so.
Future planning.
Future planning.
It's something to pay close attention to in our new.
Absolutely.
Would it, if, Denise, if we allocated money right now for the small capital, would it have to be spent before June 30th? So that wouldn't help.
And that's basically what we did this year.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it if you, yeah, but you're saying like, and you're gonna continue to meet. So I was just wondering if there could be some kind of revolving account that they could do the smaller stuff with, but it would only be on a yearly basis, so we're at the end of the year.
Yeah,
It would not help you right now.
right.
Unless there's anything else that we missed that you would be ready to do.
Spend it a week.
Well, encumber in a week.
We hit the issue where,
Time is of essence
yeah,
as well.
because we hit the issue where even if we approved it and we encumbered it, if we don't get the invoice and everything back before June 30, then we end up fighting with the auditors, and they want to push it forward to the current fiscal year, and we're fighting with them about the previous fiscal year. We're doing that right now.
Well, I'm glad we got
Finished it all.
Good.
Can I ask, is that this handicap parking, is that this fiscal year?
Yeah, you've already approved
We
it.
approved it.
We did?
Yep.
Yeah.
We just didn't want to do the design until you said it was You know, you guys.
So I would have a chance to see it.
Yeah, good with the design.
Yeah.
That's coming out of the 414.
I'd like to get the invoice for the track equipment so that I can, but a little late, but I need to.
From last
I-
year?
We just
Yeah, all the
purchased
new
this
equipment we
spring,
bought.
some new track equipment.
Chuck has
again
reached
this
out to
spring?
me
We
about
remember we just purchased all that track. I don't know the exact date.
Oh,
all the
last
new
year.
hurdles.
December, yes.
Oh,
I can
okay.
get that
sorry.
to you.
It's from last year.
Yeah.
It's from
Yeah,
last
okay,
year.
yeah. I thought you meant new.
This time last year.
Stephanie has that. We
Still
can
No
get
worries, I'll
it.
get that.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It was this season, yet you got to use it. but-
Yeah, right.
The only
So-
thing that didn't come in was the discus. Was there anything else missing?
I need to look at the invoice of what
Okay.
was delivered and dropped
Okay.
off.
Yeah,
I will do that, no problem.
I suspect things are missing.
okay.
Yeah, no, we got the hurdles, we got the
If I could just
carts.
get my hands on
We
it
can
so I
give you
can
that
do an
invoice.
inventory and we can say, here it is, we got that. And
I had
if there
two in
was
my
one
hand, you know why?
Yeah,
That's
thing
my
missing,
take
we
it
can-
back.
Yeah.
Today.
You get an auditor right
Did we
there.
receive the javelins, Chuck?
What's that?
Did we receive the javelins?
So I don't think we received the javelins. I found some javelins that were purchased previously that were still in packages. And the javelins are of such superior quality, they're made for college,
Right.
elite college throwers. And our kids have been not using
Not yet.
the correct javelin. So we've got like 3 of them that are still in their packages that I'd like to, trade them for something our kids can use.
Okay, we'll get that invoice.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Scott? Any other
We'll elevate the
facilities
athletes.
or-
God has thrown the wrong javelin.
We're gonna try to do lessons on the elite,
Right.
the elite equipment.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
And moving on to school committee forum. Anyone have anything to share? I know it's late, you came in. We do have executive session tonight, so we'll roll call into executive session. Our next meeting, our next public meeting is July 10th at 6 PM here. And then after that is August 28th, so we might have to schedule another one. Just for a quick update, if anything on MES water. But for now, it's July 10th and August 28th. If no one has any other committee, we'll move into executive session by roll call. Ted?
Yes, please.
Carrie? Jan? Erin? Karen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
All right, thank you.